Okay. Is my screen shared now?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, चलो. Okay. So today we are going to start with land reforms. Okay. There are some small topics that we have to finish in economy. So this is one of those land reforms. In general, if you see the previous year questions in OCS, I'm talking about. Previous year questions are very less. Okay. So they have not asked many questions from this chapter, but I have a gut feeling that this year they might ask at least one question. Sometimes I have this kind of gut feeling in any case because it is written, I mean, it's mentioned in your syllabus, so we have to teach it anyhow. But I feel that this year they might ask a question directly from land reforms. I think Subhendu sir had taken land reforms in Odisha, right? Land reforms in Odisha part. This was covered in your Odisha geography part. This was covered by Subhendu sir. So today we are going to cover land reforms in India in general. Okay. अरे पढ़ा है कि नहीं लैंड रिफॉर्म्स इन ओडिशा.
पढ़ा है सर
If
क्लास.
okay, if you want, I can still give you some value addition on land reforms in Odisha as well, if time permits, or else I will also give you some extra additional notes that you can add to Suvendu sir's class notes. Okay, so ठीक है, let's begin. Okay, what's the meaning of land reforms? So we had discussed that sometimes this is important for your introduction. Introduction में हमें कथा है कि you can start with either data, facts, or something. But when there is a specific term, you can start by defining it also. Very simple thing. If you don't remember anything, you can start with a definition. So, meaning of land reforms is the laying down of laws, rules, regulations, schemes, initiatives, etc., or related to land. Okay. So, land related laws and rules, regulations, all these things. Even initiatives, okay, schemes or initiatives, these will, whichever step you are taking, whichever step the government is taking on land related laws or land regulation of land ownership, regulation of land operation. So the all of those come under land reforms. And after that also we will see what are the objectives of these reforms. So these include fixing land ceiling. We will discuss each of these in detail. Don't worry. Okay. So fixing of land ceiling, the redistribution of land from rich to poor. Usually people see if you ask what do you mean by land reforms, most people will think about this thing only. But land reforms is a broader or more holistic thing than redistribution of land. Okay, no doubt this is at the center. This is one of the most important objectives. But there are also other stuff in this. Okay, so redistribution of land from rich to the poor. Similarly, regulation of ownership and operation of land. Who is owning how? Who can own how much of land? Who can operate on that land? Who can work on that land? Land leasing, consolidation of land holdings (CLH). This is also something we will discuss in detail. Then regulation of sale and inheritance of land, to sell the land and to inherit the land. And these are also known as components of land reforms. Okay. Now we will see each of these in detail. So before that, what are the objectives of land reforms? Why do we need land reforms at all? Okay, and these are the objectives. First is the optimum use of land, means how to maximize land. For example, suppose you have a lot of land behind your house and you are not using it. So that is not required, but there are many landless people who do, if we could provide them land, they could use it maybe for farming, maybe for some kind of small business. So here we are not using land for the optimum benefit. Okay. So land reforms, one of the objectives of land reforms is to use the land to its maximum utility. Similarly, second is to ensure the well-being of peasants and agricultural laborers. Okay. And well-being here means mostly socio-economic well-being. Okay. That is, for example, to prevent agrarian debt. Agrarian debt means agriculture जो मैंने କରୁଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ସେମାନେ जो loan usually most of the households who are doing agriculture they would have some kind of loan or the other, and most of them are usually taken from informal sources. Okay, zamindar or landlords kind of people. So that is also an outcome of not having enough land. Okay. Similarly, third is to prevent landlessness among farmers. If there are any landless farmers, we want that they should have some land to work with. To prevent the fragmentation of land holdings, this is also something we are going to see in next part. What is the meaning of consolidation of land holdings part में क्या? Improve agricultural production and productivity. Production is the amount, productivity is the, you can say in crude form, the efficiency with which we are producing this amount. Okay. For example, suppose there is 1 hectare of land, and from this 1 hectare, one person is producing 1 ton of, or 1 quintal. 1 quintal, let's say 1 quintal. This person is producing 1 quintal of paddy, and there is another person who in half hectare or 0.5 hectare person is able to produce same 1 quintal paddy. Then here we will say that here the production is same. Production means the amount is same, but here the productivity is higher, right? So this person is at the half of the land, he is able to produce the same amount. So these are two different things, production and productivity. Then poverty alleviation and welfare of the poor, of course, because poverty in India is intimately linked with agriculture. Okay. Among all the three sectors, more number of poor people are working in agriculture. And finally, to prevent concentration of wealth in a, that is land, concentration of land in a few hands. So that means that it should not happen that only a few people should have a lot of land. Now, before we move on to what is the meaning of all these things, all these components, first let us try to understand what is the background of land reforms. Okay, why it is needed. So if you go back in history enough, you will see that the land related issues of India, I cannot say it began in colonial India, but it worsened in colonial India. Okay. Why it worsened in colonial India or British era? This is something that you will also read in modern Indian history. In modern Indian history, Samruddhi ma'am will take a few classes, 4 classes around. So she will also explain what are the what were the difficulties which were introduced by the British revenue system. In general, if you have also read medieval Indian history, modern Indian history, you would have known about these things. That there were many intermediaries in Indian agriculture. Now, who can explain in short what this means, intermediaries, and what are the problems that Indian farmers face? Can anyone explain? I think it's very simple thing. Anyone? No? Am I audible? क्या हो गया?
सर प्लीज रिपीट करो तो आउथरे कौन पचाले?
I said, can anyone? Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I said who can explain what is the issue of intermediaries in Indian agriculture? Why are intermediaries troublesome? Intermediary माने कहले हम कौन बुझ?
So they did not have the actual knowledge about agriculture, and they did not have the psychological connect with the agricultural laborers. So they didn't have an incentive to maximize the production.
Right, but who were these intermediaries? Do we have any names for them?
Absentee landlords.
Very simple. First term that should come to your mind is
first jamindars, then absentee landlords.
Right. There are some other terms also. Okay. Similar to jamindars. If you see in modern Indian history, there are many similar terms. Okay. Jamindar, Hawladar, Gantidar. Okay. Lots of terms. Their roles and functions were slightly different. Okay. So they are not exactly equivalent, but you will see in history in detail. Okay, these were all intermediaries. For example, zamindars, they were usually the landowners, and but they were not the actual farmers, so they used to give their land in a rent to the actual farmers, right? And the problem was that the zamindars needed, they were only concerned about the money, so they would charge a lot of rent on the poor farmers. The farmers did not have any other option, that is why they were they took this assignment. Okay, right? And zamindars had to pay to the government, British Indian government. Right? Now the problem was that when there is at least three steps, at least I'm telling you three, there could be, and there used to be much more. There was government, there were intermediaries. Here there could be many number of intermediaries. Okay, one zamindar would give in rent to another zamindar. This zamindar would give in rent to a rich farmer. This rich farmer would give it in rent to a poor farmer or agricultural laborers. So there are many layers of these intermediaries. Finally, there was the actual cultivator. So you imagine whatever profit this person was earning, he would have to share it with all of these people, and this person actually would not earn much. In fact, many times the person would take loan from the same zamindar for input, okay, for seed, for water, for uh, any other stuff, and that amount only will also be deducted from his or her profits. So in this way, the person, it might turn out that the actual cultivator would not earn anything at all despite working all year round. So this was the problem with intermediaries, that when you have a lot of intermediaries, the actual profit will reduce. And if you see, this is also the problem of Indian agricultural system till now. You might have read about in agriculture, what are the problems of agricultural marketing. You would have, one point you would have seen that there are many number of intermediaries. Farmer is producing in the village, then there are transportation, then there are some wholesaler, then there are some retail sellers. So these are also intermediaries. Due to these, the value of the, sorry, the cost of the product will increase. But this person, the producer, is not getting anything extra. Right. So something similar happened in British Indian period. Now, if you see, they had introduced three major type of tenure systems, and all of these three were very exploitative. The most exploitative was the Jamindari system, which was introduced here in Bengal, right? Bengal, North Madras, and Banaras. Similarly, there was another which was known as Mahalwari system. Here, Mahals, or a group of cultivators, they were given the charge of, I mean, they had to pay directly to the government, the British Indian government. Similarly, in Royatwari system, the Royats means the cultivators themselves, they had to pay to the British government. Right? So all of these three land revenue systems, they were very, very exploitative, and that led to the decline of Indian agriculture, and that led to the lack of land for most of the Indian farmers. Now come to this part. What are the phases of land reform in India? If you see, land reform happened in broadly two phases. First phase was post-independence. The entire colonial period, it's not as if the colonial government was not taking any steps, but those were not adequate. So our land reforms, that usually begins from 1947 independence, from 1947 to 1991, then from 1991 till now. Okay. So these are the two major phases. Now, why is this time period taken? Can anyone explain? 1991 में कौन ହେଇଥିଲା?
So,
LPG.
so economic reforms.
Very good. LPG reforms or opening up of the Indian economy. So in these two phases, land reforms have happened. Now the first phase, post-independence, immediately after 1947, government set up one Kumarappan committee. Kumarappan committee on the problems of farmers and the problems of land. It recommended many things. Based on their recommendations, government took a number of measures that was in the first phase. The first and foremost measure was the abolition of intermediaries, not the reduction, mind you. Abolition means they wanted to completely eliminate intermediaries. But of course, were they able to succeed in this? Of course not. Okay. But the goal was to completely eliminate the Zamindari system. Okay. See, still it is one of the, even if it is not 100% successful, still it is the most land reform, I mean, the most successful land reform steps in India. Okay. So in general, nothing can be 100% successful, but still if something is maybe 90% successful, then also it's great. Okay. We should not be a perfectionist. Now, why this, why was this very important? Because You try to understand, zamindars, they were the intermediaries between whom? Government and the people, other normal Indians, है ना? Means non-zamindar Indians. Now, the number of these people are very few. This is very large. Now, when the British Indian government, this was replaced by the actual Indian government in 1947. Now we realize that zamindars, they were the pro-British people, and they were also instrumental, or they were helping the Britishers in subjugation of Indians. So this is also why abolition of intermediaries is one of the most successful land reforms steps taken, because Indians also had animosity towards the zamindars. So abolition of intermediaries means when Indians took charge of the country, they said ki there should be no more zamindars. So right now there are no more zamindars. Actually there are ex-zamindars. Right? So this position is no longer exists. And in general, if someone is trying to exploit others by giving very high rent, very high informal, informal way their people are giving loans, there are also enough number of provisions in the law to take action against them. So permanent, if you see in the permanent settlement system, that is the zamindar, usually the zamindari system in Bengal and nearby areas. This was the setup, this was the mechanism we had discussed. The peasant or agricultural laborers, they would be giving very, very high rent to the zamindars. This rent was maybe variable, but the zamindar, who is the intermediaries, he was supposed to pay very high rent to the British Indian government, which was fixed. Right? So जमींदार मीन्स जमींदार को किसी मतलब नहीं कि peasants रो केते production होची केते agriculture रो हेतु हमर farm केते जिनस बाहर होची, what he is concerned कि he has to pay a fixed rent to the British Indian government. So this also led to another problem, that the zamindars did not care about the productivity of the land. Means productivity here means what? For example, the fertility of the land. ଏବେ ତାଙ୍କୁ କ'ଣ ଫରକ ପଡୁଛି? ତାଙ୍କୁ ତ ଗୋଟେ ଫିକ୍ସ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ପେ କରିବାର ଅଛି। ତ ସେମାନେ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଯୋଉ କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର ଥିଲେ ତାଙ୍କୁ କହିଲେ କି ଭାଇ ତୁମେ ଯାହା କରୁଛ ଆମକୁ କିଛି ଫରକ ପଡେନି, ଆମକୁ ତ ଏତିକି ଟଙ୍କା ଦରକାର ବର୍ଷ ଶେଷରେ। Right? So due to this kind of attitude, the peasants, again, what is the problem with the peasant or agricultural laborer? The peasant doesn't know ki whether the next year he is still going to be cultivating that land. ମାନେ ତାର କ'ଣ ପରମାନେଣ୍ଟ କ'ଣ ଅଛି ତାକୁ ଜଣା ନାହିଁ, ମାନେ ଏମିତି ଜବର ଷ୍ଟାବିଲିଟି ତାର କିଛି ନାହିଁ, ତେଣୁ ସିଏ ବି କାହିଁକି ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟ କରିବ? ସିଏ ବି ଭାବୁଛି କେମିତି ସର୍ଟ ଟର୍ମରେ ମତେ ଟିକେ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ପଇସା କିଛି ମିଳିଗଲେ ଏଇ ବର୍ଷ, ତାପରେ ମୁଁ ବାହାରିଯିବି ଆଉ କୋଉଠି ଯାଇକି ଚାଷ କରିବି। So due to both of these attitude, that means ki no one is investing in the land. So this happened pan India, across India, and that led to the decline in the productivity of the land. Fertility kichhi nahi, every year they are just trying to exploit the land. Okay. So after independence, what we did was that we abolished intermediaries. So right now, before that, what happened used to happen that, see, these are the three steps: peasant, zamindar, Indian, British Indian government. Then what happened was that peasant or the farmer would directly give rent to the government of India after 1947. And even if you see the amount of the rent, this was very low. Okay. And there were no intermediaries, or at least there were not supposed to be any intermediaries. And as I said, that it was also the most successful land reforms due to political will. Why there was political will? Because zamindars were seen as anti-Indian. Okay, because they were ସେମାନେ ବ୍ରିଟିଶର ମାନଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ମିଶିକି ଆମକୁ ଟର୍ଚର କରୁଥିଲେ, ତେଣୁ ଆମର ଲୋକମାନେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପାୱାରରେ ଆସିଲେ ସେମାନେ କହିଲେ କି ନାଇଁ, ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଆମେ ଜମିଦାରକୁ ବାହାର କରିବୁ। Now this is very interesting. I have taken a photo from internet about how much land revenue people pay. Okay. So now you see this one example. This person has paid how much money? 3.45 rupees. Okay, a huge sum of 3 rupees and 45 paisa he has paid for what is the amount of the land? 0.2 acre or 0.08 hectare. Okay. No, I'm not sure whether it is the same. Maybe 0.2 acre and 0.08 hectare or something, because hectare should be more, na? So anyway, just take this example. 0.22 acre ପାଇଁ ତାକୁ କେତେ ଟଙ୍କା ଦେବାକୁ ପଡୁଛି? 3 ଟଙ୍କା 45 ପଇସା। Now I want to ask you something, that see, before independence, the rent amount of rent was very, very high. After 1947, it is very, very low, right? So why is government still taking this much amount of money, even 50 पैसा टंकाटे 2 टंका काहे कि नउची एथरे तो हमको कोन किछि प्रॉफिट होची रादर मु तो कहि सेते तांको जो चालान कटा होची जो लोकंकर सेते एति लोक खजणा पाउती ओके ए सब भरिबारे जो हमें रेवेन्यू ऑप्शन को यूज करछु सेते हमर बेसी खर्च होची तो यार पॉइंट कोन व्हाट इज द पॉइंट ऑफ दिस कैन एनीवन टेल मी why is government collecting a very low amount of land revenue from the people?
ସାର୍ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଗୋଟେ ଡାଟା ରହିବ ନା କୋଉମାନେ ଖଜଣା ଦଉଛନ୍ତି କାହା ପାଖରେ ଜମି ଅଛି ନ ଅଛି ବୋଲିକି
Very good.
ଆପଣ
I expected one answer from Chakrathar. So there should be a database. What
ସାର୍
else?
ଶଙ୍କର
Sorry. Okay, Shankar. Okay, I thought Chakrathar would say something. Any other answer? This is not the most important point by the way. But ठीक ଅଛି database हम पत्र रहेगा. What else? भाबो. See, the most important reason is that government को एथरे किछि भी लाभ हो नै rather एथरे loss होची लोकन को जो खजना पाउती आदाय करियारे. The main reason is that to tell the people continuously that who is the ultimate owner of the land. Ultimate owner of the land is government. This is the most important part. Okay, you are paying tax, that means you are acknowledging the authority of the government. This is the state government because land is a state subject. So the state को आमे खातिर करूछु, state को पैसा दिया होची, that means सेमाने होचंदी सर्वे सर्वा. So if they want they can raise the tax amount anytime, but they don't want to raise. Okay, this is the most important thing. ठीक अछि बुझी होची अपन तो किछि डाउट होची. Have you seen such kind of receipts? Receipt देखी जो इंडिया किछि कि maybe some of you might have even filled the revenues के देई छ पेमेंट करि छ किछि नहीं. Maybe your parents or someone they might have filled it.
ଯଦି ରିସିପ୍ଟ ଦେଖିଛୁ ସାର୍
Receipt देखी छ. Very good. By the way, when you join as Tahsildar, under you there will be maybe 7-8 RIs, revenue inspectors. It is their job to collect these things, but you are supposed to be supervising. Okay, next let's come to tenancy reforms. ଏବେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବୁ tenancy reforms. Tenancy reforms କ'ଣ? Before that, let's first try to understand what is the meaning of tenant. So one is the land owner, maybe a jamindar or someone. The other is the land tenant, that is who has taken in rent that land. Okay. That means this landowner is giving some amount of land for this person to farm or to do some kind of activity. In return, the person is getting rent. Very simple thing. Now there are two types of such tenants. One is known as occupancy tenants. One is known as sharecroppers or subtenants. ये सबुर टेक्निकल डिफरेंस भितर जिवार किछि भी पॉइंट किछि नै. जस्ट नोट अछि के डाउट हले चेक कर दो. इन जनरल टेनेंट्स कहले हम यूजुअली शेयर क्रॉपर्स मान को पूछो. ओके, शेयर क्रॉपर माने किए जे माने देखो शेयर क्रॉपर माने क्रॉप रो गोटे शेयर जो माने पे करिवे मींस ए माने होचंती भाग चासी. बहुत सिंपल रे ओडिया रे कहआ जाय मन को भाग चासी. भाग चासी माने कोन हेई पारे कि मे बी तुम मान कर भी पेरेंट्स करो किछि अमाउंट थिवो जमी रे. Maybe you are settled in some town or city. ସେମାନେ ତମ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ମାନେ କ'ଣ କରିଥିବେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ପୈତୃକ ସମ୍ପତ୍ତି ଯୋଉ ଜମି ଗୁଡା ଥିବ ସେଥିରୁ କିଛି ଜମିକୁ ସେଠିକାର ଲୋକାଲ ଗାଁ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ କିଛି ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚରାଲ ଲେବରର୍ସ କୁ କିଛି କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇ ଦେଇଥିବେ. ବାବୁ ତମେ ଏଇ ମୋ ଜାଗାଟାକୁ ଚାଷ କର. ସେ ଏଣ୍ଟାयर ଏରିଆରୁ ଯେତିକି କ୍ରପ୍ yield ବାହାରିବ ତାର ଗୋଟେ ସେୟାର ସେମାନେ ପେ କରିବେ ରେଣ୍ଟ. ନଟ୍ ଇନ୍ ଟର୍ମସ୍ ଅଫ୍ ମନି, ଇନ୍ ଟର୍ମସ୍ ଅଫ୍ ସେୟାର, ଇନ୍ ଟର୍ମସ୍ ଅଫ୍ କ୍ରପ୍. ସରି, सपोज से गोटे क्विंटाल चावल से धान बाहर कले 50%, 30%, whatever it is, that amount they will pay. Okay. So that is the meaning of sharecroppers or bhagachasi. Okay. These are usually the tenants. Now the abolition of intermediaries, this benefited mostly whom? Occupancy tenants, means those tenants who had some land initially. Okay. But this did not benefit the sharecroppers. Why it did not benefit the sharecroppers? Because intermediary यदि abolish हो गला, शेयर क्रॉपर माने तो डायरेक्टली माने ता द्वारा कोन डायरेक्टली सन किछि लैंड मिलला, सन किछि मिलला. इंटरमीडिएरीज एबोलिशन सिना हे गला, बट जमींदार को पाखरे जति लैंड रहला सेति रहल. तो शेयर क्रॉपर मानकर किछि ता द्वारा बेनिफिट हैला नाही. तेनु ता परे कोन आमे आनलु टेनेंसी रिफॉर्म्स आनलु specifically to benefit all kinds of tenants, especially the sharecroppers or subtenants. Here I have in short I have written SC/ST. A SC/ST ର ମାନେ ନୁହଁ scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. Okay, ଏ entire chapter ରେ ଯୋଉଠି SC/ST ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ଏଟା ହଉଛି sharecroppers or subtenants. Now tenancy reforms under actually ହେଲା କଣ? First and foremost ଆମେ କଣ କଲୁ conclusive ownership rights to tenants. Conclusive ownership rights ମାନେ tenant ମାନଙ୍କୁ actually ଆମେ ଦେଲୁ, ଆମେ କହିଲୁ କି this is your patta or record of rights, ROR. Okay. So before that they did not have any documentation. Now we actually transferred some amount of land were transferred to the tenants, and they were said, see, this might not be the entire land, but government forcefully said at least some part of the land you have to give to the tenants, and that was documented. This is the most important one. This was documented, legally documented by the government. Now what is the importance of this thing? Obviously when there is documentation, then there is ownership. If you own certain kind of land, then there is, you can use it further. Before that, if you did not own any land, so you can be evicted at any time. Okay. Once you own something, now you cannot be evicted from there. So you have some security net. Okay. Now across India, only in 2 states, in West Bengal and Kerala, this specific conclusive ownership rights to tenants was successful. In most of the other states, it was not successful. Now who can tell me why? It may have read somewhere. କାହିଁକି ୱେଷ୍ଟ ବେଙ୍ଗଲ ଆଣ୍ଡ କେରଳାରେ କେବଳ ସକ୍ସେସଫୁଲ ହେଲା ଟେନାଣ୍ଟସ୍ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ରାଇଟ୍ସ ଦବା? Anyone?
Sir, due to communist government, political.
Very good. Due to communist government, because across India only in 2 states there were communist governments, that is West Bengal and Kerala. If you know, for many years CPI was powerful in West Bengal, in Kerala also. So the communist government is pro people government. Pro people in the sense pro poor, specifically pro poor, right? Pro farmer, pro worker. Therefore there was political will. Okay, you said Sai Krishna, I think you said the exact answer. So due to political will, only in these 2 states it was successful. There was one Operation Barga in West Bengal in the 1970s to register the sharecroppers. Sharecroppers ମାନଙ୍କର database ତା ଆଗରୁ କିଛି ନଥିଲା, ସେମାନେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଆଣିକି ତାଙ୍କର list କରିକି ତାଙ୍କୁ government record ରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ରଖିଲେ. So these were successful in West Bengal and Kerala because of the political will. Now the second step was security of tenure. Security of tenure to the tenant so that he can invest in the land. Where will this security of tenure come? देखो ये दीटा को similar point but same जिनिस, documentation हेले ownership आसिले security of tenure. Right? So security of tenure माने होची कि now tenants know that they cannot be evicted from the land because they own certain part of the land. Once they cannot be evicted, now they can invest in the land. Invest in the sense that long term fertility of the soil को केमती increase करिया. Fertility of the soil increase हेले productivity, land or productivity automatically increase हो. And the third part was rent regulation. Rent regulation माने government कहले कि एबे तुम्हें मन इच्छा देखो land owners माने आगरू कौन मन इच्छा सब rent fix करते. Suppose there was one जमींदार, he is saying कि मते माने yearly मते 50,000 rupees दरकार rent. चलो ये तो बहुत अधिक ही गला. Let's say 20,000. There is another zamindar in the same kind of from the same kind of land, he is demanding 25,000 per annum. Now there is no logic behind this. Zamindar manno ko jaha asile semane kahide, but government then said ki you cannot, no one can fix this. In general also they were abolished, and government said that you have to pay rent, but that is a reasonable amount of rent. Okay, so in general reasonable amount means it was very very less. Actually government reduced the rent 1947 पर land rate immediately reduce हो गया. Okay.
सर
Yes.
सर ଏଥିରେ ପୁରା complete ownership ଦିଆ ଯାଉଥିଲା କି ଯୋଉ documentation କରା ହଉଥିଲା ବେଳେ?
Complete ownership नहीं, माने dependent again on the political will. को जगह रे किसी state government माने किसी एरिया रे गोटे एरिया रे कौन हला पूरा जमींदार को evict कर दिया लगा very rarely. आ गोटे जगह रे कौन हला केवल एमती law नहीं आनला government एंड किसी हला नहीं, से law को implement करा गला नहीं. So it depended, it varied from area to area. In general also in most of the areas, see आगरू कौन होतला जमींदार माने entire area रो ओनर थिले, ସେମାନେ ଚାଷୀ ଭାଗ ଚାଷୀ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇ ଦଉଥିଲେ ଚାଷ କରିବାକୁ. तो लैंड रिफॉर्म्स आसला पर तांको कहले कि एटलीस्ट एतिकी एरिया कोटा सर्टेन परसेंटेज लेट अस से कि 1/4 1/3 कि इवन 1/10 यू हैव टू गिव माने बाय डिफॉल्ट इफ दिस पर्सन इज मे बी कल्टिवेटिंग फॉर 10 इयर्स 10 वर्ष तुम जमी रे चाष करछि ताको 1/10 अराउंड जगह दियो so this part was documented कि this person now has a area ताको दिया है okay. Entire area was not given in most of the parts okay now come to the so this what happened आमे देखियो एटा सब सेकंड पॉइंट रे आस्ला टेनेंसी रिफॉर्म्स अंडर okay. So these were all came under tenancy reforms. Now the third part is this is not tenancy reform. This is a different kind of land reform that is sealing on land holdings. Now this is the most controversial and the most radical kind of measure. इथिरे basically कौन कहला government fixed a land ceiling. Government said कि for example one person can at max have this much amount of land. Okay, suppose this much acre of x acres of land. Beyond anyone who is having more than this x acre, the surplus amount, whatever extra amount is there, that will be taken away from the person by the government forcefully, and that will be redistributed or given to the landless people. So ceiling on land holdings mane above certain limit you cannot keep land, okay, and that will be given to the landless farmers. So I have explained to you one pictorially or graphically one part has been explained. From that you can understand what was the goal of the government. Goal of the government is that people should have more or less, I mean some amount of land should be there so that they can use it for some economic activity, right? And on the other hand there should not be any accumulation of land in a few hands. That was also one of the objectives, if you remember, we had discussed that one of the objectives of land reforms was to prevent the accumulation of land in a few hands, okay. So this was a legally mandated compulsory reform, unlike Binova Bhave's Bhudan movement, which was a voluntary campaign. So Binova Bhave's campaign, please don't get confused with this. Some people think that Bhudan movement was also same as land holding. In Bhudan movement, it was an informal movement. Okay. Later on, some government gave legal protection to it, okay. But initially or majorly it was an informal movement. Government ର ଏଥିରେ କିଛି role ନଥିଲା. But sealing on land holdings କଣ? State governments माने law आनिकी fix करिकी they said कि माने it varied from state to state. So state governments said कि you can at max have this much amount of land. Okay. So this was compulsory and a legally mandated reform. However, both failed to achieve their objectives. Means both Bhudan movement as well as this legally mandated sealing on land holdings, they failed to achieve their objectives. Now, why did they fail to achieve their objectives? Any idea? ଏବେ ଦେଖ Bhudan movement କାହିଁକି fail କଲା? Do you know about Bhudan movement or not? History ରେ ପଢିଥିବ may be. କେହି explain କରିପାରିବ?
सर फेल ହେଲା ଏଇଥିପାଇଁ ତାଙ୍କ ଯୋଉ ରିଲେଟିଭ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେନେ ଜମି ଦେଇ ଦଉଥିଲେ ଯେ ସେଲିଂ ଯେତିକି କରାହେଇଥିଲା ତାଠୁ ଅଧିକା ଯୋଉଠି ଥିଲା ତାଙ୍କ ରିଲେଟିଭ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇ ଦଉଥିଲେ ତ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ତାକୁ ନେଇ ପାରୁନଥିଲେ।
Very good, excellent answer. Very simple thing. ଦେଖ ଆମେ ମନେ ଅଛି ଆମେ ମନି ଲଣ୍ଡରିଂ ରେ ବି ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ପଢିଥିଲୁ, smurfing. Remember this thing, smurfing. Smurfs ମନେ ପଡୁଛି ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ blue creatures. What was the
Yes, sir.
method of smurfing? Black money ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ example ଦେଇଥିଲି demonetization ସମୟରେ ଲୋକଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ cash ଯୋଉ black money cash ରେ ଥିଲା ତାକୁ ସେମାନେ କଣ କଲେ, suppose ଜଣଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ 10,000 ଅଛି, ସେ ତାର 10ଟା ରିଲେଟିଭ କୁ 1000 କରିକି small cash ରେ distribute କରିଦେଲା, then the person said you go and deposit it in your account, ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମାଗିବି ମତେ ଦବ ନା, ସେମାନେ ଚାଲିଗଲେ ତାଙ୍କ ଡିପୋଜିଟ କଲେ, ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଧରି ପାରିଲାନି। ସେମ୍ ସିମିଲାର ଥିଙ୍ଗ you are saying that this is a ceiling beyond which you cannot have land. जमींदार ମାନେ କଣ କରିବେ, very simple thing, ଏଇ extra surplus ଜାଗାକୁ ତାଙ୍କର ରିଲେଟିଭ ନାଁରେ, ତାଙ୍କର ଫ୍ରେଣ୍ଡସ୍ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲି ମାନଙ୍କ ନାମରେ ରଖିଦେବେ, ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କର ଆଗରୁ ବେଶୀ କିଛି ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ନଥିଲା। then they will show କି see ଆମର ତ ଏତିକି ହିଁ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଅଛି, ମୋ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲି ମେମ୍ବରଙ୍କର ଏତିକି ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଅଛି। So obviously even government knew that this is going to happen, but what can you do? How can you prevent it? Okay. It's very difficult to prevent. No, ଏଥିରେ କିଛି ବୁଝିଗଲା और କିଛି डाउट ଅଛି ଆପଣ ଯାହା କଥା ହେଲୁ? Tenancy reform, sealing on land holdings, abolition of zamindaris. See, this chapter is not only important from GS3 perspective, You can also write in modern Indian history भी question एथु आसी पारे. Okay. So there also you can write these things. Okay. Then let's move on to the point of land consolidation. Now land consolidation kahinki आवश्यक हला. तार reason होची land fragmentation. Because there was land fragmentation, therefore we needed land consolidation. Now land fragmentation, what do we understand by that? So before that, you need to understand one term which is known as small and marginal farmers, SMFs. Now, who are small and marginal farmers? Small and marginal farmer, one farmer is said to be small and marginal if he is owning less than 2 hectares of land. 2 hectare of land ରୁ ଯଦି କମ ତା ପାଖରେ ଜମି ଥିବ ତାକୁ ଗୋଟେ small and marginal farmer କୁହାହବ. And in general, our entire Indian farmers population around 85% होचंदी एमतिया small and marginal farmers. तामाने maximum farmer मान पाखरे 2 हेक्टर रू कम land अछि इंडिया रे. Now यार reason कौन? There reason, very simple reason. Who can tell me? Go through this infographic later on. Okay, I will not explain. इनके basic चीज़ नहीं है. But who can tell me what is the reason? कहीं की land fragmentation India रे हिच. Very simple reason.
So due to inheritance.
Very good. In short, what you should have explained की, could have said की, see land is fixed. Land कौन राता राती नुआ create होती है. India रो area fixed अछि. So land is fixed, but population is increasing. Population increasing means what? After every generation, more number of people are there. Body chalching. Now the same land now it will be distributed among next generation. So that means that each person will get smaller amount of land, right? So that means in each generation, the person who is getting whatever amount of land that is less than the previous generation size of land. That is the main reason. So then taku ame prevent kare aur taku counter kariyaku ei concept asla consolidation of land holdings. This is what I have explained, by the way, why it happened: rise in population, inheritance claims on land, fragmentation of land. And due to the fragmentation of land, okay, then what happened was that there was decreased size of average land holding over time. And when there is a decrease in land holding, then that leads to reduced land productivity due to lack of economy of scale. Economy of scale हेई परिबो नाही, सेतिपई land रो productivity reduce हबो. Now who can explain what this means, economy of scale?
So when the land size is small, then scientific or more investment can be done, mechanization can be done because of the size is too less to adapt the changes.
Very good, very good. In short, we will say that the scale of operation is inversely proportional to the production, right? Or profit, whatever you can say. Means जदि scale of operation बढ़िबो, sorry उल्टा कर देली कि production संगे directly proportional. Means scale of operation बढ़ले production बढ़िबो. Scale of operation कमिले production कमिबो. Scale of operation will inversely be proportional to cost of production. Means scale of operation जदि बढ़िबो ताले cost of production कमिबो. Scale of operation जदि कमिबो ताले cost of production बढ़िबो. That means कि for example think कि you have started to teach people. Okay, you take a case of us. Suppose there are, let's say, 30 students in a class. So our scale of operation is small, profit will be less. If in the same class there are 60 students, 90 students, now we will get more profit out of this. So this is the importance of scale. Scale बढ़िले कौन हो, profit बढ़ियो. Okay, cost of production कमियो, profit बढ़ियो. Cost of production केमिया बढ़ियो? For example, whatever equipments you are taking, whatever payment you are giving to your employees, now that will be in general for 60 people it will reduce, right? For 90 people it will reduce, means per person this will reduce. Okay, here there is more per person. So that is the meaning of economy of scale. Now when there is fragmentation of land, economy of scale is less. For example, suppose you cannot use mechanized machine किछि यूज करी हबनी, mechanized agriculture करी हबो नाही जदि छोटो एरिया अछि, because your scale of operation is low. बतन बहुत ही छोटो जगह अछि, सेतिरे तुम ट्रैक्टर थोड़ ना चले परियो. और जदि बहुत बड़ एरिया टा अछि, now you can use tractor and you can earn more. छोटो एरिया रे कोन तुम बाध्य कि हाथ रे ताको हळ करियो पड़ियो और ବଳଦ ବଳଦ ଲଗେଇକି ହଳ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ନା, ସେଥିରୁ ତୁମକୁ ବେଶୀ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ତମର ବେଶୀ ହବ, ପ୍ରଫିଟ କମ ହବ। ଗୋଟେ ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ବଡ ଏରିଆ ତମେ ନେଇପାରିବ ତାହେଲେ ସେଥିରେ ଟ୍ରାକ୍ଟର ଲଗେଇକି, ଟ୍ରାକ୍ଟରରେ ବି ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ହବ କିନ୍ତୁ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ତୁଳନାରେ ତୁମର ପ୍ରଫିଟ ଅଧିକା ହବ। ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଇଜ ଦ ମିନିଂ। ନା କନସୋଲିଡେସନ ଅଫ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ହୋଲ୍ଡିଂସ୍ ତାହେଲେ କଣ ନା ଆମେ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ କି ଏମିତିଆ ଯୋଉ ଫ୍ରାଗମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଇକି ଥିବା ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ କୁ ତାକୁ କେମିତି ଆମେ we will consolidate it, means we will bring it together to create a big area, okay? And ଏଇଟାକୁ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ କହନ୍ତି very simply ଚକବନ୍ଦୀ। ବହୁତ ଜାଗାରେ ଚକବନ୍ଦୀ ଅଫିସ ଦେଖିଥିବ। ଚକବନ୍ଦୀ ଅଫିସ ମାନେ ହଉଛି consolidation of land holding office, okay? Now I have taken this from this website Odisha Krishi Jagaran, you can read it. The same thing has been explained in Odia, okay? Any doubts in this? Consolidation of land holding, CLH. Same thing has been written here. When we take many smaller amount of land, then we can, our scale of operation will increase, we can use machines and that will increase our profit. It will reduce our cost and it will increase our profit. Achha, scale of, okay, economy of scale I had explained in this part. Then next see a similar concept, consolidation of land holding and cooperative farming. These are not the same thing, there is a difference, but these are similar things. Our ultimate objective in both of these things is to enable the pooling of land. Very important. Pooling of land means many people have many smaller, suppose this person 1%, 2%, 3%, 4, they have different tracts of land. You are going to pool it together and you are making this large area and here you are going to do farming together. And this is cooperative farming. Okay. So our goal in both of these steps are same, but the operation is different. So this will, cooperative farming will again apply economy of scale. So when the scale of operation will increase, our cost of production will decrease. That means cost of production is decreasing means profit will increase. Right? Now what is the difference between, sometimes, I mean, I don't think they will ask it directly, but you should know, okay, what is the difference between consolidation of land holdings and cooperative farming. The consolidation of land holding or चकबंदी जोड़ा, चकबंदी रे कौन करा हो जाए, land ownership change ହେଇଯିବ। For example चकबंदी रे कौन हुए, try to understand. चकबंदी by the way is not the same as redistribution of land. Redistribution कौन, surplus area को आमे माने गोटे लोकठु आनिके अन्य को दउछ, तो एई लोकर तो जाहाले भी लॉस होउछ ना, आ यार गेन होउछ। चकबंदी रे कहार नेट लॉस नेट गेन किछ नै, ओके, माने समस्त जेतिकी जमी थिला स्टार्टिंग रे परे भी सेतिकी हो, बट व्हाट दे आर गोइंग टू डू इज कि सपोज चकबंदी रे आउट माने very good thing about chakbandi is what, suppose earlier one person, suppose x person had land here, again this area was also x land, this area was y's land, this is z's land, this is again some other person's land. Now चकबंदी रे कोन को हबो, देखो ए लोकटा एठी एठी अल्प अल्प अछि तार लैंड, तो से भितर एथे भी ट्रैक्टर यूज कर पर नै, एठी भी हळ करछि एठी भी हळ करछि, असुविधा होछि ताको। आमे कोन करिवु, आमे कोन करि एतिकी सेम लैंड ताको एठी एलोकेट करदु, ओके। नाउ जेड को आमे कोन करिवु, ए एरिया टाको, सॉरी ए सेम एरिया टाको जेड को दे दउ, तो फाइनली कोन हबो, जेड रो एरिया एटा हबो, एक्स रो एरिया एटा हबो, वाई रो एरिया एटा हबो। नाउ ऑल थ्री ऑफ देम कैन यूज mechanics, sorry, machines, right? So mechanized way रे ସେମାନେ यूज कर परिए, ସେମାନେ किछि modernized agriculture यूज कर परिए, irrigation facility they can avail to, or they can optimally use it. So this is the meaning of chakabandi. There will also be an exchange of land. So this is, एतिरे कोन हला, is this same as redistribution of land? This is not redistribution, because x रो आगरु जेतिकी land थिला एबे भी सेतिकी अछि, z रो भी सेतिकी अछि, y रो भी सेतिकी अछि, just that government intervened and gave them, reallocated or shuffled the land in such a way that there is a pooling of land. Now there is an area in which they can improve the land. So here there will be a conclusive transfer of ownership. ei jaga ro eta pura jami patta baharibo, ei loko na re ei patta habo, ei loko na re ei patta habo, okay, ei सब जिंस change, land ownership will change, okay. cooperative farming रो कोन हबो, कहारो land ownership change हबो नै। सपोज x एठी अछि, आ गोटे जगह भी x अछि, y रो एठी जगह अछि, z रो एठी जगह अछि, ओके, आ सपोज a रो ई जगह अछि, तो एक्चुअली समाने किछि ऑफिशियली किछि करियन, व्हाट रादर दे विल से कि अनऑफिशियली दे विल कम टुगेदर, दे विल से कि आमे पूरा एंटायर एरिया को आमे सांगरे चाष करियो, एंड जार जेतिकी परिमाण जगह अच्छी से अनुपात क्रॉप यील्ड आम फाइनली घर को नबू which is also fine. Okay. So this is where farmers retain their respective ownership and cultivate the pooled land together. सांगरे करी चकबंदी रे कौन हम हाँ चकबंदी रे आउट डिफरेंस कौन चकबंदी रे मानने की एक्स वाई जेड सांगरे मिसी चाष करियो एक्स ता जगह चाष करियो जेड ता जगह चाष करियो वाई ता जगह चाष करियो बट एथिरे कौन हम कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग रे कौन हम एमाने समस्त मिसी बर्तमान एक्स जेड वाई ए समस्त मिसी कौन करिए एंटायर एरिया को निज एरिया बोली भाबिकी समस्त मिसी चाष करिए एंड तांकर एरिया अनुपात रे क्रॉप यील्ड नेबे राइट सो दीज आर द टू मेन डिफरेंसेस. So consolidation of land holding again it is laid down by the law, so it is legally mandated. Mandated तो कोई होगा ना legally laid down, whereas cooperative farming is voluntary. And consolidation of land holdings, if you see, there was some success in the green revolution areas. Punjab Haryana रे टिके successful ହେଇଥିଲା, अन्य एरिया रे consolidation of land holdings एते successful हेई नै. Although चकबंदी ऑफिस इंडिया रो almost सब स्टेट रे अछि, ओडिसा रे भी अछि, किंतु आम स्टेट रे भी एते सक्सेसफुल हैला नै. Whereas cooperative farming to some extent was also successful, but only in areas where there is a strong community, farmers community. Now you can understand कि कहीं के जिनस हुए सी चकबंदी टाको लोक जहा भी टिके डिस्ट्रस्ट करिवे बिकॉज देयर इज ओनरशिप चेंज होची. कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग रे कोन जदि ट्रस्ट अछि ताले सेठी हेई पारि बहुत इजीली हेई पारि बिकॉज चकबंदी रे जागा ट्रांसफर होची तेणु से भावी कि मे भी मोर भल जगह नहीं मत खराब जगह गवर्नमेंट खराब जगह दे दो तो लोक मैंने राजी हमें चकबंदी लोक एक्सचेंज करवाटा डिफिकल्ट. बट कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग रे कोन मु कहबी चलो साई कृष्ण आम मिसे चाष करी तो मो जमी मो पाखे रहा साई कृष्ण पाखे तार जमी अच्छी but we just agreed it informally that we can do this, right? So this is also largely unsuccessful, but the reason for that is that this farmers community was not developed in most of the areas, but in those states where these were developed, जो स्टेट रे फार्मर कम्युनिटी स्ट्रांग थिला कम्युनिटी फार्मिंग आगुर भी ही आस्तला से एरिया रे कम्युनिटी दिस थिंग वाज सक्सेसफुल कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग स्पेसिफिकली बिकॉज़ केरला रे एमान को ଗୋଟେ स्ट्रांग ट्रेडिशन थिला. ओके कुडुम्बश्री मिशन या अंडर they were able to do cooperative farming. Right now in India also, in some parts of Punjab, Haryana also, we have successfully implemented cooperative farming. In many areas of Uttar Pradesh, in areas of Maharashtra, in some areas of Gujarat. चलो गुजरात रे एते बेसी नहीं, यूपी महाराष्ट्र ये सब जगह रे भी cooperative farming has been successful. Okay. So ओडिशा रे ना चकवंती ना cooperative farming, neither of them have been very successful. Okay. ओडिशा रे एक्चुअली सक्सेसफुल होची गोटे जिंस सेटा होची भूदान मूवमेंट. बट do you know this or not? Odisha is the fourth largest contributor, was the fourth largest contributor during Bhutan movement. But anyway, this was the difference between consolidation of land holdings and cooperative farming. In general also, in land reform related way forward, you can always recommend कि we should promote consolidation of land holding as well as cooperative farming. First we should try for consolidation of land holding. जदि चकबंदी हेई परला भलो कथा, जदि न हेई परछि ताले cooperative farming भी promote करा जाओ. Okay. Way forward in suggestion you can try. Now let's come to the second phase, post 1991 phase. Now as we were discussing कि 1991 टा गोटे landmark year थिला, तापर भी किछि land reforms आसिला. But what is the difference from first phase and second phase? The difference is that in the first phase it was mandated by the government, it was entirely government driven, whereas after 1991 to a great extent it was market led land reforms. Means market demand हिसाब रे हमको because grow करिवार अछि, there is a need for increased production and productivity, there is a need for availability of land. Because of this organical need there was land reforms, right? So what was the landmark event? It was the opening up of the Indian economy. Opening up of the Indian economy means LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Due to the LPG reforms, when Indian economy opened up, the demand increased. Due to this, we were forced to have some land reforms, other type of land reforms other than what we have seen previously. Now under this, government also took certain steps. Many steps were also taken by the private sector. Now what are the major steps taken under this? First is the digitization of land records. Digitization of land records माने कौन? मैं simply को भी गोटे तहसील ऑफिस जीव आगରୁ गले देखी ना तो ह्यूज माने रैक करे सब नाली फिता नाली फाइल रे सब कागज थी 50 वर्ष 60 वर्ष पुराना सब रेकर्ड सब थी बर्तमान तार कहीं किसी केयर नौन एटा को रेकर्ड रूम कहा ओके रेकर्ड रूम रे पड़ी केबे केबे लोकंकर डॉक्यूमेंट मिसप्लेस हो जाए ओके तो किसी जीव जंतु खाई नष्ट करदे से मूषा घासा खाई नष्ट हो सो या द्वारा कौन है कनक्लूसिव ओनरशिप राइट हमको मिल पार नथला रेकॉर्ड किसी रही पार नथला ठीक से तो गवर्नमेंट कौन कले स्टार्ट कला गोटे नेशनल लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स मॉडर्नाइजेशन प्रोग्राम NLRMP दिस वाज स्टार्टेड अंडर द 12th 5-year प्लान सो 2012 to 2017 ए ईयर अंडर रे आसला स्टार्ट हला नेशनल लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स मॉडर्नाइजेशन प्रोग्राम एबे भी चली ओके या अंडर गवर्नमेंट कौन कला ए जो तहसील रे आगु सब थिला रेकॉर्ड रूम ताको डिजिटाइज करा मीन्स गोटे गोटे से उठेले सब रेकॉर्ड पट्टा फटा सब उठाला ताको से मैनुअली सब गोटे गोटे फिलअप कले ओके तार डेटाबेस गोटे क्रिएट है कि सपोज अमुक ग्रामर अमुक लोक पाखे एतिकी जगह अछि now what are the goals or benefits amara why should we do digitization because it is also a move towards conclusive titles okay because conclusive title माने कोन आगुरु जतले कागज रे रहउतला तले बहुत सारा जिंस इनकनक्लूसिव रहउतला because गोटे लोकर डॉक्यूमेंट गोटे जगह रे अछि आउ किछि तार से रिलेटेड डॉक्यूमेंट आउ गोटे जगह रे अछि तो conclusive राइट देवा को डिफिकल्टी होउतला कि हमें ताको एक्चुअली से लोकर माने कंप्लीट ओनरशिप अछि कि नाही हमें जानि पार नथुल बिकॉज़ हम पाखरे सब डॉक्यूमेंट नाही एबे कोन हबो हमें डिजिटली गोटे जगह रखले कोन हबो हमें गोटे तार प्रोफाइल क्रिएट कर देले सेतिर सब डॉक्यूमेंट रख परिया देन फाइनली सपोज चेकलिस्ट रे देखिलु सब जिंस अछि ओके फाइनली दैट मींस कि दिस पर्सन ओन्स दिस लैंड ओके so conclusive move towards conclusive title second is to reduce the cost of land transfer okay land transfer रो cost कहीं reduce हबो कहीं ना आगरो दुनिया स्टाम्प लगाओ तार दुनिया लोकंकठो माने ऑफिसर मानकठो ताको वेरीफाई करिक आनो एबे कोन होची सब जिंस म्यूटेशन होची डायरेक्टली डिजिटली ऑनलाइन सब किछि होची सिग्नेचर ऑफ द हायर अथॉरिटी इज आल्सो डिजिटल सिग्नेचर तांका जो डीएससी लागी सेतरे साइन ही होची तो या द्वारा कोन लैंड ट्रांसफर कॉस्ट रिड्यूस ही होची थर्ड पार्ट इज ट्रांसपेरेंसी इन ब्यूरोक्रेसी एबे करप्शन करियर डिफिकल्टी हो बिकॉज़ सब जिंस ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल अछि efficiency in land laws or revenue laws and modern record keeping so these are the benefits of digitization of land records now I have given a screenshot of this case or this model which is Bhulek of India sorry Bhulek of Odisha this is the land record web portal of Odisha so Bhule jemdi India sarre different state and different step notion digitize kariyaku tankara land record Odisha government has started this initiative which is known as Bhulek you should do once what you should do is कि ए वेबसाइट टा खोलियो भूले सेथिरे तुम डिस्ट्रिक्ट ता अंडर तुम तहसील ता अंडर तुम सर्कल सब ऑप्शन आसीयो जेमिति एथिरे तुम सब क्लिक करी करी चलिवो ओके एथे सब खोली खोली चलिवो गोटे गोटे बाहरियो तुमरो ऑप्शन बाहरियो सेथिरे यू कैन सी कि तुमरो तुम एरिया रो ओनरशिप यू कैन सी कि तुम लैंड रो देखियो तुमरो पेरेंट्स का नारे थाई पर तो दिस हैज हैपेंड ड्यू टू द लैंड डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड record now NLRMP रो यार चारिटा कंपोनेंट मु देछि 4 components of NLRMP computerized land records computerized land registration process land निज नारे रजिस्टर करियो भी तुम एबे ऑनलाइन अप्लाई कर परियो सर्वे एंड मैपिंग यूजिंग सैटेलाइट्स ड्रोन एरियल फोटोग्राफी ये सब जिंस सर्वे एंड सेटलमेंट जहा को आ जाए ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डेवलपमेंट or public awareness these are the 4 components of national land record modernization program remind me to take a break at 8:30 ठीक है 8:30 रे हम गोटे शॉर्ट ब्रेक नबो एपन बुझी होची जा के होची land record cooperative farming consolidation of land holdings digitization of
Yes,
land
sir.
records okay so next land reform major land reform was is land leasing so आमे गोटे पर गोटे स्टेप देखुछु कि पोस्ट 1991 means second phase रे कौन land reform step नहीं आई. So गोटे part वाला land digitization, second part is second step taken was land leasing. Now land lease बहुत थोड़ा कथा कथा रे भी सब term सुनी थी मतलब. So you would have heard कि suppose this relative of yours or this friend they have taken a land in lease. Maybe किसी business କରୁଛନ୍ତି, କିଛି plantation କରୁଛନ୍ତି, anything. So they have taken land in lease. तो लीज माने कौन होची, एटा गोटे ऑफिशियल एग्रीमेंट जोथरे कि गोटे पीस ऑफ लैंड को को पर्पस पई और केते पीरियड पई केते अमाउंट ऑफ रेंट रे आमे नौ. सपोज 10 वर्ष पई 20 वर्ष पई आमे गोटे लैंड नीचु इन दिस प्राइस रेंज. ओके, सो दैट इज द एग्रीमेंट. नाउ व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ लैंड लीजिंग? इफ you would have seen initially मु केतेटा पॉइंट लिखଥିଲି कि व्हाट आर द ऑब्जेक्टिव्स और पर्पसेस ऑफ लैंड रिफॉर्म्स. सेतरे फर्स्ट पॉइंट थिला ऑप्टिमम यूज ऑफ लैंड. मींस लैंड को हमें बेकार रे पड़ी के वेस्ट करिया तो बेटर होची, ताको हमें आउ का को दबु जहाँ को से यूज कर पारी. राइट, तुम घर पछपटे तुम घर रे किछ गोटे लैंड अछि, बतन ता चारि कड़े भी आउरी बहुत सारा लैंड अछि व्हिच यू आर नॉट यूजिंग. सो देयर इज नो ऑप्टिमम यूज ऑफ लैंड. किछ गोटे जागा रे तुमरो प्रॉपर्टी अछि, से जागाटा तुम केवल पाचेरी देकी रखछ, ताको यूज करनो. ऑप्टिमम यूज ऑफ लैंड होनी. एटलीस्ट इफ यू कैन गिव इट इन लीज, okay, now it can be put to use. You may not see, you may not want to transfer it, you may not want to sell it, but you are willing to lease it. Means temporarily janku temporary ownership dele kon haba, that person can work on it and you will get some returns. Okay. Second part, land leasing no kon benefits. It prevents litigation, mane case land related case को prevent करे due to prolonged occupancy. लैंड लीजिंग रो सबुठ बड़ सुविधा काहे कि लोक माने लैंड लीज रे दियंती. देखो लीज रे न देले तमे विदाउट लीज अनऑफिशियली गोटे लोक को जदी तुम को भी लैंड रे रखा करेबो, से लोक कोन हो करे मे बी 30 इयर्स परे से लोक ऑक्युपेंसी बेसिस रे क्लेम करियो कि मते ए जगहटा दिया छै, बिकॉज़ मु कंटीन्यूअसली मु एठे रही आछी, सो एटा को मते दिया छै. लोक माने क्लेम करन कोर्ट रे. स्पेशली गवर्नमेंट लैंड से प्राइवेट लैंड रे तो 30 इयर्स रे भी ही परिबो. प्राइवेट लैंड रे माने तुमरो ना रे अछि 30 इयर्स कोन 50 इयर्स कोन इट विल बी इन योर लैंड. गवर्नमेंट लैंड रे लोक माने कोन करंती, इंडिया काम भी हरकत करंती. प्राइवेट लैंड रे भी लोक माने ट्राई करंती, ऑल द कोर्ट डज नॉट एंटरटेन. बट ए डर रे काले किछि लोकन को कंटीन्यूअसली रखिले से माने हम लैंड ऊपर ताकर हक आसी, सेति में लोक माने भी ताको यूज करिया को किछि दियंती नै. से तो या द्वारा कोन से लैंड टा वेस्ट छे. किंतु लैंड जति लीज रे दोछ, सो एग्रीमेंट रे ही लिखा अछि, ऑफिशियली एग्रीमेंट हे गला कि ये लोक तो केवल 10 वर्ष पर्यंत रहि पारे. ओके, and that means कि the person is not a owner, the person is only taking it in a lease. So lease हेले कोन से ओनर लैंड ओनर भी से भी निश्चिंत रे दे पारे. राइट, सो केस किछि हबो नाही, प्रोलॉन्ग ऑक्युपेंसी पे किछि केस हबो नाही. सिमिलरली लैंड ओनर कोन कर परिवे, से लैंड को तांकर रेंट रे देकी से तांकर अदर एरिया को पळेबे. आगर कोन होतला लैंड लीज रे त नथिला, केवल बाय एंड सेलिंग ही परतला. ना सपोज गोटे लार्ज लैंड ओनर जने अछि, तो गां रे तांकर बहुत जगह अछि. The person can also not move to other areas, town or city से जीवा चाहेले मूव कर परियानी, because the person is afraid जदि मु एरिया छाडी पळेबी जागा मोर कि अन्य लोक मान नै जिवे. लैंड लीज हेले कोन हबो, he can give it to lease to someone and he can go to other place. Here the same person landowner can also do some other work. तो देखुछ माने लोकन को आमे फसै कि गोटे जगह रे रखुतलु आगु. लैंड लीजिंग जतल नथिला, लैंड लीजिंग जतल आछिला ततल बहुत लोक फ्री ही गल. राइट, सिमिलरली लैंड टू द लैंडलेस फार्मर्स. मींस लैंडलेस फार्मर जतले लीज रे नेबे ततले तांक पखर भी किछ लैंड आसीओ. ओके, सी दिस इज नॉट, वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ लैंड, वी आर ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट लीजिंग ऑफ लैंड. So here there is no transfer of ownership, there is only a temporary transfer for operation of the land. Okay, similarly land is made available for other purposes, माने business venture ए सब जिंस पई land available हे जो आगर जोटा लॉक हे के रहतला ताको हमें अनलॉक कर दे. It also increases land productivity, raises agricultural production, blah blah, all these generic points you can write. कि what is the benefits of land lease? Question आसी पारे, what short question आसी पारे कि what is the need or benefits for land leasing and what is the solution for it? कौन हमें कर पारे. Now there is a committee called T-Huck committee. So Huck committee कौन कहला, it recommended liberalizing the land leasing process of India through an act, माने government mandated कोटा करा जो, citing the success of Kudumbashree mission in Kerala. तो हक कमिटी कहला कि केरला रे इट इज देखो केते सक्सेसफुल होईची सिमिलरली अन्य स्टेट माने भी एटा करिया उचित एंड स्पेसिफिकली दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपोर्टेंट डू मेंशन दिस पार्ट मॉडल लैंड लीजिंग लॉ 2016 नीति आयोग गोटे बाहर करथिला ओके सो इट प्रोवाइड्स अ टेम्पलेट फॉर द स्टेट्स टू enact land leasing laws why because land ଆଉ agriculture these are the state list subjects ସେଥିପାଇଁ center ତ କିଛି enact କରିପାରିବନି ତ ନୀତି ଆୟୋଗ ଗୋଟେ ମଡେଲ ଲ ଦେଇଛି ମଡେଲ ଲ ମାନେ ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଫର୍ମାଟ ବନେଇକି ଦେଇ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ୟାର କିଛି ଲିଗାଲ ସାଙ୍କ୍ଟିଟି କିଛି ବି ନାହିଁ ନୀତି ଆୟୋଗ ଗୋଟେ ଟେମ୍ପଲେଟ ତାମାନେ ଦେଇ ଦେଇଛି ସେ କହିଛି ଏଟାକୁ ତମେ କପି ପେଷ୍ଟ କରିପାରିବ ଏଣ୍ଡ କିଛି କିଛି ଷ୍ଟେଟ ମାନେ ୟାକୁ କପି ପେଷ୍ଟ କରିକି ଟିକେ ଟିକେ ଚେଞ୍ଜ କରିକି ତାଙ୍କର enact କରିଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ଷ୍ଟେଟ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ଲ ତିଆରି କରିଛନ୍ତି so this is something that you can use in way forward रे पॉइंट गोटा लिख परियो कि हक कमिटी रिकमेंडेशन को इंप्लीमेंट करा जाऊ सेमितिया नीति आयोग रो जो लैंड मॉडल लैंड लीजिंग लॉ अछि सेही बेसिस रे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट माने भी सब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट माने भी तांकर एक्ट तयारी करंतु रेडी करंतु these are some way forwards that you can mention now next topic is land acquisition आमे कौन पोस्ट रिफॉर्म्स फेज रे कौन लैंड रिफॉर्म्स देखिलु 1991 पर फर्स्ट ला डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड रिकॉर्ड तापरे आसला लैंड लीजिंग तापरे आसीबो लैंड एक्विजिशन now what is the meaning of land acquisition see these are some technical terms ये टर्म रो स्पेसिफिक माने अछि तमन छि यार स्पेसिफिक माने या जगह रे तुम आउ कुछ टर्म लिखियो तार माने चेंज हिजो लैंड एक्विजिशन माने होछि गवर्नमेंट जेतेबेले प्राइवेट ओनर मान को प्राइवेट ओनर्स ऑफ लैंड मान तांकोठू जबरदस्ती लैंड आनी forcibly okay, means without consent of these landowners government can take the land and use it for public purpose this is the meaning of land acquisition ta mane kon suppose government चाहूची कि ए दुईटा जगह कनेक्ट करी गोटे रास्ता तैयारी करिया बट ए रास्ता मझे मझे किसी लोकंकर प्राइवेट लोकंकर जगह अछि गवर्नमेंट कौन करियो फोर्सिबली गवर्नमेंट एबे लार्जर इंटरेस्ट को देखि कौन करियो ए लोकन को एथरू उच्छेद कर दो एमन को एविक्शन करा and these people will be paid compensation okay so compensation will be paid there is no worry about it but the point is that even if these people do not want even if these people file case government will not listen to it this is the meaning of land acquisition so the government it can be center as well as state because remember land is a state list subject but land acquisition is a concurrent list subject that means land acquisition can be done by either state government as well as central government right so land acquisition means the government forcibly taking land from private owners for public purposes this is important means government cannot take it for its own use and government कहबेन कि आज आमे गोटे एठी मोर गोटे ऑफिस गोटे खोली बोली जबरदस्त सेटा ही परिबनी but what government can say कि public purpose में you can do something government can do anything so giving compensation as well as rehabilitation to the original landowners they can do it and the best example for this is the recently done श्री मंदिर परिक्रमा प्रकल्प एबे देखिथियो पुरी पुरी मंदिर यदि जाइथियो एई सब एरिया जो एबे जो एक्सपैंड हित नै सब एरिया गुडा एगुडा आगरो एथरे कोन थिला मेन वन टेल मी कोन थिला एथरे सब ए सब गुडा रे आगरो
उठा दुकान
सब दुकान थिला लोकंर घर थिला recently I had been to Puri and I went to a Sebayat's house actually. Their house has also been broken. Okay, they had been paid compensation, and the compensation amount varied on how much land they had and how many तांकर केते successors अछंती से हिसाब रे huge amount of compensation दिया है in crores people have been paid in crores okay 4 कोटी 5 कोटी टका रे पाइछंती गोटे गोटे family but point is कि even they did not want that much amount of money also they ସେମାନେ କହିଲେ କାମ ଆମେ पैसा ହିଁ ନବୁ ନାହିଁ କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଘର ଭଙ୍ଗା ନ ଯାଉ ଆମେ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ ଏଠି ଘର କରିବା ତୁମେ ଭାବ ତମର ଯଦି ଏଇଠି ଗୋଟେ ଟିକେ ପ୍ଲଟ ଥାନ୍ତା land ତୁମେ କଣ 4 କୋଟି ଏବେ ଦେଲେ ତୁମେ ନେଇକି ତାକୁ ଦେଇଦବ କି ତୁମେ ଦେବ ନାହିଁ ତୁମେ ଭାବିବ କି ମୋର future ରେ ଏଟା କେତେ ୟୁଜ ଆସିବ 4 କୋଟିରୁ ବହୁତ ଅଧିକ ମୁଁ ପାଇବି if you think about ମାନେ ଲାଇଫ ଟର୍ମ ତୁମେ ପାଇବ ତମ ପିଲାମାନେ ପାଇବେ future generation one time lump sum amount huge amount ଆସିଲେ ବି କଣ ସେ ତ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ହେଇଯିବ 10 20 30 ବର୍ଷରେ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ହେଇଯିବ ସେମାନେ ବି ଚାହୁଁନଥିଲେ land ଦେବାକୁ but गवर्नमेंट कौन कला बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट हैज दिस पावर कंकरेंट लिस्ट सब्जेक्ट अछि गवर्नमेंट कहले कि कंपनसेशन धर एटू बाहर वेरी सिंपल थिंग बिकॉज वी आर डूइंग दिस फॉर पब्लिक पर्पस public purpose by government can evict. So this is the meaning of land acquisition. Are you able to understand what is the meaning of land acquisition? Now यार legal framework याकू govern करया पे गोटे ही act अछि, major act, that is the right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement act. Okay. RFCT LARR act. In short ताको हम कहबा land acquisition act LAA 2013. Okay. यूपीए गवर्नमेंट if you remember बहुत लंबा चौड़ा नाम रे स्कीम सब सॉरी एक्ट भी तैयारी करथिले, स्कीम भी तैयारी करथिले. एटा यूपीए गवर्नमेंट टाइम रो गोटे एक्ट. So this is the central act. Now there are some important provisions of this act. I'm not going to teach you this, just go through it because एमती कहीं पचारिबेनी एग्जाम रे पचराबनी कि लेखा बोली. But I gave you some details so that you will understand कि how this acquisition is done. For example, if you see कि गोटे प्रोजेक्ट को इभला गोटे प्रोजेक्ट को करिया पई केते जण ओरिजिनल लैंड ओनर कर कंसेंट दरकार. 80% जदि प्राइवेट प्रोजेक्ट जदि हिथियो ताले 80% लोकंकर जदि हमको कंसेंट मिल जियो, बाकी 20% कर कंसेंट न मिलले भी काम हि करियो. से पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप रे समितिया जहां भी काम हिथियो 70% लोकंकर कंसेंट मिलिया दरकार. ओके. सो देयर आर सम प्रोविजंस ए वाला किछि प्रोविजन अछि देखियो. सोशल इंपैक्ट असेसमेंट हो बोली मैंडेटरी बोली कहै अछि. ओके. केते रेट रो कंपनसेशन लोकन को दिया तार भी गोटे कैलकुलेशन कराबो. रूरल एरियाज रे कोन से लैंड रो मार्केट प्राइस जाथियो तार 4 टाइम्स दिया हबो. अर्बन एरिया रे कोन तार मार्केट प्राइस जेती थिबो तार 2 टाइम्स दिया हबो. माने एटा भी गोटे मे बी एटा आई थिंक अर्बन एरिया रे आस. तो सपोज ए अर्बन एरिया रे 1 हेक्टर लैंड रो वैल्यूएशन होची पूरी पूरी मार्केट रे सपोज 1 crore rupees. ताले ए लोक माने दे मस्ट हैव gotten 2 crore at least. ताटो अधिका भी पाई थी परंत, but at least they will be given 2 crores. This is the framework that had been laid down by this act. Okay. Land acquisition act. एई भलिया बहुत सारा फ्रेमवर्क सॉरी बहुत सारा प्रोविजन अछि. सेथरे तांको एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रोविजन भी दिया हबो, तांको केमते रीसेटलमेंट कराबो, ए सब जिंस अछि. If you want you can also read about there was another bill, land acquisition amendment bill 2015. नुआ गवर्नमेंट नेचर पावर रे आसला, समाने चाहिले ए लार एक्ट को 2013 एक्ट को अमेंड करिया को, but that was not passed, but it is a very good bill. Actually एथरे प्रोविजन बहुत भलो किछि किछि प्रोविजन भलो अछि. So you can write that in way forward also. Okay. But in मते लागुनी एते डिटेल ले किछि आवश्यक अछि. So these are your questions for daily answer writing. Ajiro question eguda सब if you want you can write it. By the way, we are not giving you daily questions anymore. Daily answer writing question usually faculties are not giving you. But if any of you want you can text us, we can give you. And ମୁଁ କିଛି କିଛି ତଥାପି ଦେଇ ଦେଲି because I wanted କି କିଛି writing practice ଟା continuous ରହିଥାଉ. Question न ଦେବାର main reason ଏବେ ହେଉଛି because you have a lot of thing to read and revise. So I know that most people will not be writing. In general also in last week also very few people were writing. So we understood it's okay. We have a lot of pressure and also right now you should be revising, reading and revising. Okay. Our daily answer writing which is darkani, but still if you want you can write this. I will also evaluate. Okay. In general I'm into evaluation okay, we will evaluate. ठीक है. So let's do one thing. I don't think today we will go till 9 o'clock also. तो आम एटा को जल्दी सारी दवा. ओके सारी दिन तुम जल्दी छुट्टी दे देबी. एमती भी 9:30 पर्यंत क्लास थिला. आई थिंक 8:45 अराउंड हमर क्लास सरी जिवो. ठीक अछि. So you can take rest and you can study other stuff. Now there are some generic points, generic doubts that you can sorry not doubts, some generic content that you can use in your answer writing. Question might also be asked. Hang on a second. Okay. Now what are the barriers to implementing land reforms, or what are the obstacles, what are the challenges or difficulties to implementing land reforms? First is lack of political will. Okay. Very very important point. Now you will understand why there is lack of political will in the implementation of land reforms. Because you see the lawmakers जो माने से लैंड रिफॉर्म उपरे लॉ बनेबे एमपीज एंड एमएलएस दे देमसेल्व्स आर लैंड ओनर्स मींस जो माने लार्ज लैंड ओनर्स लोक थिले सेही माने तो रिच पीपल ना सेही माने पैसा देकी पार्टी टिकट किनी छिडा आइते सेही माने जीते इलेक्शन now they are going to the parliament they are going to the legislative assemblies now you think whether they will make any laws on themselves you know we are going to give away our surplus land obviously they will not you think in almost what in every state legislative assembly in parliament the legislators are entitled to pension do you know this or not even if a legislator is in power for one term the person is entitled to get pension for a lifetime and
Yes.
this is in the amount of pension is also something similar to or even more than class 1 officer right now do you think this is justified or what do you think? My point is not whether it is justified or not. My point is something which is related to conflict of interest. Okay. Maybe it is justified. You can say it is justified because they are public, representatives. They are representing people's will. Okay, they are making laws, which is very vital for the running of the economy. You can defend it in any number of ways. But my point is, there is a conflict of interest because who decided that they are going to take pension? They themselves decided. They made a law. They passed a bill, appropriation bill pass करके कि now हमें एती टका pension नो. Is this not conflict of interest? Similarly, I mean, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure, but it feels to me like it could be a conflict of interest. ଯେମିତି କି suppose there is a judge. If this person is presiding in his own case, ନିଜ ଉପରେ ତାଙ୍କ against ଗୋଟେ case ଆସିଛି ନିଜେ ସେଥିରେ ପଶି judge କରୁଛନ୍ତି. Now there is also conflict of interest. Similarly, why there was a lack of political will in implementing land reform? Because there was also a conflict of interest here. The lawmakers themselves were one of the biggest owners of land. This should not have happened, but this happened. So therefore, there is no such strong political will behind implementing land reforms. Right. A similar point is that even when the lawmakers were not the landowners themselves, there was already a strong lobby of ex-jamindars or the big landowners. So even if after the abolition of jamindari systems, the jamindars still remained powerful. Right? Why they remained, we'll see in this thing. So they had a very strong lobby. They had access to politicians, to ministers. So they also said, "Bhai, why are you making laws against us? You take this money, don't make any laws." Legislators are also happy. Right? So these are the main barriers. In short, you can write like this. Please don't write in layman language ki zamindars giving bribe to people like this that सेमती लिखियो नहीं ठीक है मैंने politically neutral way रे लिखियो ठीक है second is bypassing land ceiling we have already discussed कि what these ex zamindars or landlords did इसे मैंने तांकर friends और family मानूंगा एमानों सब जमी देगी bypass करते land ceiling यार गोटे आउटकम भी है बेनामी ट्रांजैक्शंस मींस व्हाट now this person would suppose the person has a lot of surplus land now they will transact it to or transfer it to some other person maybe this person may not even exist or even if this person is existing who could this person be maybe he is the driver of this person some employee of the person now एमाने ये arrangement रे ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି कि ଦେଖ ତୁମେ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଏତେ ବର୍ଷ ଧରି କାମ କରୁଛ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଏତିକି land ଦଉଛି ଏଟା ତମ land ନୁହେଁ ଏଟା ମୋର ହିଁ land ମତେ ଏବେ ଦରକାର ମୁଁ ଏଟା ତୁମ ଠାରୁ ନେଇଯିବି you just keep it for the time being because government has enacted this law. So due to benami transactions, the zamindars were also able to bypass land ceiling in their respective states. Similarly, there was a legacy issue in Indian land revenue system. Legacy issue means what? Legacy issue means long time dhari jo issue da rahi as. Okay. Even before, from the colonial times. And what is the main issue? Lack of clear land title or land records. There is no clear land record which land belongs to which person. Okay. Similarly, there is a non-uniform coverage of survey and settlement. Who can tell me what is the meaning of survey and settlement? किसी सुनिचा ना नहीं term था survey and settlement. Anyone? Am I audible or not?
Yes, sir. सर सर्वे सेटलमेंट माने हला जो लैंड जति थियो तो सर्वे करके तापरे नॉर्मली गां
Okay.
गां रे बुली
Survey
बुली
is
कर
very good. सर्वे माने होची आमे लैंड को सर्वे करिकी माने आमे मैप तैयारी करिया। सर्वे रो मेन जिंस होची माने मैपिंग, आमे एक्यूरेट मैप तैयारी करिया को जगहटा कोठी अछि, राइट। सेटलमेंट माने कोन? रेंट फिक्सेशन। ओके, मैप प्रथमे हबो तापर आमे रेंट फिक्स करिया कि अमुक किसमर जगह को अमुक रेट रे चार्ज करा हबो। फॉर एग्जांपल, नॉट ऑल टाइप ऑफ लैंड शुड बी टैक्स्ड एट द सेम रेट। सपोज देयर इज अ मोर फर्टाइल लैंड और मोर प्रोडक्टिव लैंड, दैट शुड बी तारो रेंट अलगा, सेटा हायर रेंट रे चार्ज करा हबो। जोटा टिके वेस्टलैंड, मेनी टाइम्स कोन वेस्टलैंड तो केही ओन भी करन से तो एमती नॉर्मल पड़ी थाए। ओके, अनाबादी काइंड ऑफ जगह एमती भी पड़ी, तो तारो रेंट कोन, तारो रेंट बहुत लो रहियो, राइट। सो एटा कहंती सेटलमेंट। सो सर्वे कहार ऑडियो ऑन अछि, काइंडली म्यूट योर ऑडियो। सो सर्वे मींस mapping of the area and settlement means fixing their rent. Okay, now the problem is ki across India there has not been any uniform coverage of survey, and survey को way रे हेची सेटा भी डिफर करे। को एरिया रे बहुत फालतू वे रे सर्वे हेची। आगुर कोन टेक्नोलॉजी सेमतिया किछि नथिला, खराब टेक्नोलॉजी। एबे कोन भलो टेक्नोलॉजी आसी, माने ड्रोन यूज होची, सैटेलाइट यूज होची, राइट। लो अर्थ ऑर्बिटिंग जो लियो सैटेलाइट्स और अर्थ इमेजिंग सैटेलाइट ताको यूज करा होची। सो सर्वे एंड सेटलमेंट रो क्वालिटी भी एबे इंप्रूव हेची, बट आगुर एटा बहुत खराब थिला। ए जो नॉन यूनिफॉर्म कवरेज हेची सेति पई भी लैंड रो बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम होची, राइट। लैंड रिफॉर्म्स को इंप्लीमेंट करिया रे प्रॉब्लम होची। द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज समथिंग bit controversial, but you can write कि there is a large amount of land which is owned by the temples, mosques and other religious institutions which is neither being utilized nor being donated to the landless। माने होची बहुत सारा टेम्पल्स जानती हो, देवतर जगह सब बहुत सारा पड़ी, राइट। बहुत सारा टेम्पल रो जो तांकर सॉरी मॉस्क रो जो बोर्ड अछि, ओके, मुस्लिम मानकर जो बोर्ड अछि सेमानकर भी सेमाने बहुत सारा रखिजन, बट से जगह गुड़ा सेमितिया वेस्टलैंड ही सेटा केवल पाचेरी पाचेरी करी रखा है, तारो यूज हो। So what is the optimum, माने main purpose of land reforms is the optimum use of land, right? So if you are letting land waste, then it is your land reform objective is not met, right? Similarly, government failed to adequately allocate wasteland, ceiling surplus land, bhudan land, इसबो अनको landless people अनको adequately दिया जाई पारि नहीं, due to lack of political will, due to lack of bureaucratic inertia, ये सब बहुत सारा जिनस पे दिया जाई पारि नहीं। बहुत अमाउंट रो जगह गवर्नमेंट पाखरे गवर्नमेंट खाते रे अछि, बट सेटा को दिया जाऊ नहीं। आई विल टेल यू अनदर थिंग, तुम जतले तहसीलदार है कि सब कलेक्टर है कि रेवेन्यू लाइन रे काम करियो, गोटे जिनस नोटिस करियो कि यूजुअल देखे जो टिके पुराना टाइप रो जो माने पुराना तो चलो काको पर्सनली कहया कथा न, बहुत ऑफिसर मन को एमितिया देखियो कि सेमानकर मन ही एमितिया, एटीट्यूड एमितिया कि किछि जिनस जन किछि फैसिलिटी लोकन को देबे नाही। जदि लोकंकर किछि गोटे कंपनसेशन पाइबार अधिकार अछि ताहाले भी सेमान ताको लोकन को देबे नाही। सो सपोज गोटे सेटलमेंट कोन कि ओजीएलएस सेटलमेंट एक्ट अंडर रे हमर कोन अप टू 10 स्टैंडर्ड एकर्स ऑफ लैंड कैन बी गिवन टू ए होमस्टेड लैंड कैन बी गिवन टू ए लैंडलेस पर्सन, माने घर तयारी करिया पे एतिकी दिया जाई परियो। ओके, बट कथा होची सेमाने सेतिकी देबे नाही, ता ठारू कम देबे। एकर नो स्टैंडर्ड हेक्टर रे थी, एकर तो बहुत अधिक है जो 10 स्टैंडर्ड हेक्टर समथिंग एमती गोटे सीलिंग दिया है। तो एक्ट रे लिखा है कि अप टू दिस कैन बी गिवन। तो अप टू दिस माने कोन, इवन 1 स्टैंडर्ड हेक्टर कैन आल्सो बी गिवन, बट दे विल, बट कथा होची 10 हेक्टर भी दे परियो, किंतु मान 10 हेक्टर केबे देबेनी, माने 4 हेक्टर दे परिवे, 5-6 हेक्टर एमती सब दे। सो दिस इज आल्सो वन पॉइंट कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर मान कर भी एतरे किछ ना किछ भूल रहुछ। Similarly, another problem or barrier to this is what, that many a times governments allot land at a cheap rate to big projects or corporates। देखते सपोज कौन हला कि सिंगूर रे जेमते हला, वेस्ट बेंगल रे कौन हला, टाटा कंपनी आसिला, से माने गोटा हेटी बड़ फैक्ट्री बनाए बोली जमी भी तांको अलॉट हे गला, बट तापर कौन है लोकों प्रोटेस्ट पे से माने से कामटा कर पारलानी बट तापर भी कौन है बहुत वर्ष पर्यंत से जगह सेमितिया पड़ी रहा गवर्नमेंट खाता तो सेटा को माने सेटा प्रथम थरे लोकों अणागला डाटा को आलोकेट कराला जिते प्रोजेक्टा हो पारा ना तापर भी बहुत वर्ष पर्यंत गवर्नमेंट पकई रखला वाई बिकॉज ऑफ ब्यूरोक्रेटिक इनर्शिया बिकॉज ऑफ रेड टेपिज्म राइट सो या द्वारा कौन है बहुत वर्ष धरी से जगह वेस्ट है सो ये सही सेम जिनस हुए दिस इज ऑल्सो एन एग्जांपल कि हाउ वी आर नॉट पुटिंग द लैंड टू मैक्सिमम यूज राइट
Sorry for the interruption.
हम्म
Please, sir, I'm Nicholas. Nicholas, sir.
हम्म हम्म
See the sir, please, I am giving you one message in Telegram.
ओके ओके ठीक है कोई नहीं विल सी इट लेटर ओके या लेट इट ओके सी इट लेटर कोई नहीं विल सी इट आफ्टर क्लास आई हैव सीन द मैसेज ओके so yeah what are the next problems then there is bureaucratic issues कौन हुए red tapeism corruption inefficient land revenue system we have discussed all of these things this is also a barrier then finally there is also nowadays there is a shift towards non agricultural uses of land non agricultural uses माने कौन स्पेसिफिकली कॉर्पोरेट्स माने कंपनीज माने तांकर बिजनेस एक्टिविटी पई आ रेसिडेंस एटा होची मेन यूज ये लोक माने तांकर घर तयारी करिया पई लैंड बहुत दरकार होची तो या द्वारा कौन है जो चाष जमी गुड़ा से गुड़ा को सब डाइवर्ट कर दिया जाउची you must have seen this diversion or conversion of agricultural land for non agricultural purpose this is also one category of land revenue तो यार अमाउंट माने एटा बड़ी बड़ी चलची एवरी ईयर इट इज इंक्रीजिंग जो जगह आगु चाष होता लोक मैंने चाहते ना चाष जाऊ से आम पोतिकी घर तैयारी करी व्हाई बिकॉज लैंड इज स्कार्स सो या द्वारा कौन हो चाष जमीर अमाउंट कमी कमी जाऊँ सो चाष जमी लैंड स्कार्सिटी जो एग्रीकल्चर लैंड स्कार्सिटी हम सेटा क्या बेसी इंपैक्ट कर स्मॉल एंड मार्जिनल फार्मर्स को बेसी इंपैक्ट पकेब बुझी दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम सिमिलरली एबे लैंड ओनर माने भी कौन प्रिफर करिए टू दे प्रिफर टू रेंट और लीज देयर लैंड फॉर बिजनेस एक्टिविटी पे से इजिली रेंट करने राजी हे किंतु पोर फार्मर और टेनेंट को कहीं देबे कि देबे नहीं बिकॉज बिजनेस पे सपोज जन लोक आसिबो कहबे आगे मु एठी किछ गोटे बिजनेस एक्टिविटी करी दुकान करी मु आपन मासको 10,000 टका देबी तो तुम खुशी हे दे दबो किंतु मोर गरीब चाषी को दबो कि बिकॉज चाषी कौन कहबो चाषी कहबे कि आगे मु तो अति बेसी 5,000 टका दे पारि तुम कहबो मु 5,000 टका नहीं कहीं देबी आपन 10,000 टका बिजनेस पे दे बुझी these are some practical problems that you are going to face in implementing land reforms okay आ अल्प टिके अच्छी सारीदबा ब्रेक कौन नवा हम सारीदेबू है सारीदेले कौन 8:40 अराउंड रे सरी जो देन we will close the class end the class okay now next is schemes or acts कौन scheme or act अच्छी या related so I'm sure that odisha related scheme and act किछि बहुत सारा act अच्छी सेगुडा सब शुभेन्दु सर क्लास रे पढ़ाई थियो जदी नोट रे नाही बहुत सारा स्पेसिफिक एक्ट अछि एमती ओडिशा स्टेट्स एबोलिशन एक्ट हला ओडिशा आ गोटे अछि टेनेंसी रेगुलेशन एक्ट और समथिंग जदी से एक्ट गोटा मेंशन हेनी जस्ट रिमाइंड मी थरे तुम नोट चेक करके मते कहइबो मु तार गोटे राइट अप गोटे देई देबी हला गोटे नोट देई देबी और आई कैन इवन एक्सप्लेन इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास आल्सो आई कैन एक्सप्लेन आल्सो सेमती बेसिक जने अल्प टिके अछि भूदान मूवमेंट अल्प टिके अछि तो if you want I can explain but just go through your notes once okay so schemes or acts under land reforms under कौन अच्छी first the land जो हमारा acquisition act LAA that is very important for land acquisition all land acquisition related stuff that is regulated by this 2013 act now next is one स्वामित्व scheme टा गोटे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रूरल डेवलपमेंट अंडर सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम यार फुल फॉर्म टा हला एटा survey of villages and mapping with improved technology in village areas SVAMITVA स्वामित्व okay तो बेसिकली एमाने कोन करचंती ड्रोन यूज करिकी आमे रूरल एरिया को मैपिंग करछे सर्वे एंड सेटलमेंट रे आमे देखले कि सेटलमेंट जेमती होची रेंट फिक्सेशन जेमती सर्वे माने होची मैपिंग करिया ओके सर्वे करिके मैप करिया तो विलेज एरिया कोन भलो भाबरे सर्वे हेई नाही इंडिया रो सिटीज गुडा बहुत डिटेल सर्वे हेची बिकॉज ସେଥିରେ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡର ଭ୍ୟାଲୁଏସନ ବହୁତ ଅଧିକା ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ଲିଟିଗେସନ ବହୁତ ଅଧିକା ହୁଏ ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ମାନେ କଣ କରନ୍ତି ପ୍ରଥମେ ସେ ସିଟି ଫିଟି ଏରିଆକୁ ବହୁତ ଭଲ ସେ ସର୍ଭେ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି ଆଉ ରୁରାଲ ଏରିଆ କିଏ ପଚାରୁଛି ତ ତା ପାଇଁ ଆମେ କଣ ସମିତ୍ୱ ସ୍କିମ୍ ଆସିଛି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସେଥିରେ କଣ କରୁଛି ଡିଜିଟାଲ ମ୍ୟାପ ସେମାନେ ତିଆରି କରୁଛନ୍ତି and this will also help in survey and settlement as well as property validation in rural areas ମାନେ କାହାର କୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ କୋଉ ଏରିଆ ଅଛି ସେମିତି ଓଡିଶାର ଗୋଟେ ବସୁନ୍ଧରା ସ୍କିମ୍ ଅଛି must have known this ହୋମଷ୍ଟେଡ୍ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ମାନେ ଘର କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଘର କରିବା ଯୋଗ୍ୟ ଜାଗା ଦିଆଯିବ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲେସ୍ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ରୁରାଲ ଏରିଆରେ so odisha government is distributing homestead land to landless people in the rural areas now who can tell me chalo eta to hatat mind re asini I'm explaining to you something if you see why land is very important try to understand why land is important for the landless people because land is the most basic thing for welfare first of all for example prathame land hele hi ta upare tame ghar tiyari kari pariyo for example pmay scheme तापर लैंड अच्छी से एसबीएम अंडर तुम टॉयलेट तैयारी कल लैंड अच्छी से तुम कौन कल ताकू तार पट्टा शो करके माने आरओआर शो करके एथरे तुम इंस्टीट्यूशनल लोन नहीं पारियो लोन नहीं की तुम ताकू इंप्रूव कर पारियो मोस्ट ऑफ द इफ यू सी फ्लैगशिप स्कीम्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट ताकू इंप्लीमेंट करया पे किसी ना किसी गोटा सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ लैंड दरकार पीएमएवाई हो स्वच्छ भारत मिशन हो सो where will the land come from for the landless so that is why initially if you don't have any land then there will be issue when you work in the state government or the central government if you are working in the administration you will see that whichever flagship schemes are being implemented first there will be many people who will come to you and say ki sir am the land hi nahi first provide us land so for example there is you have been allocated to make certain number of pmay houses so first you have to ensure that out of that how many beneficiaries do not have any land so first under maybe vasundhara scheme you will say ki first give them land then only we will allocate them pmay houses otherwise where will they build houses तो ସେମାନେ କଣ କରିବେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ କୁ ଏନକ୍ରୋଚ କରି ଘର ତିଆରି କରିବେ ଆଉ ସେଟା ଫର୍ଦର ଲ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଅର୍ଡର ଇସ୍ୟୁ ତିଆରି କରିବେ so are you able to understand ki land is the most basic need for welfare right similarly ଆଉ କଣ act ଅଛି ଓଡିଶାର ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ଓଡିଶା ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ act government land settlement OGLS act this provides for settlement of the homeless no matter landless person ମାନଙ୍କୁ settle କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସେଥିରେ ବି provision ଅଛି you know tahsildars can also settle up to certain amount they can settle ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଏତିକି amount ର land ଦେଇକି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ରଖାଯାଇ ପାରିବ ଯଦି ସେ ଲୋକ landless ହେଇଥିବ similarly there is also one Odisha prevention of land encroachment act तो एटा कौन हुए यार ओपीएलई एक्ट 1972 ର main purpose होची is to eviction of those persons who have encroached on government land but in some cases there is a provision if the person who is encroaching the land is a landless person तार सब criteria से meet करूची the person is deserving of help then the person we can also regularize the encroachment means and this will not be done by the tahsildar this is done at the higher level sub collector can do this so sub collector can do what they can regularize the encroachment of the government land in specific cases means जो लोक जो जगह एनक्रोच करथिला ताको कहबो बाबू तुम ए जगह पट्टा ही ताको दे दिया तुम रख एठी तुम ही रुह एठी बट वेरी वेरी रेयर केस रे यूजुअल माने यूजुअली ए रूट ताको निया जाय नाही बिकॉज़ इट विल सेट अ बैड प्रेसिडेंट मोस्ट ऑफ द सेटलमेंट इज डन अंडर द OGLS act Odisha government land settlement act but I'm saying that this act also has provisions to allow for settlement of encroached land okay so let's see some way forwards this is we are coming towards the end way forward means I'm a solution of the land reforms what should we do in further okay what more steps on land reforms can be taken so we'll say that land being a stateless subject state legislative assemblies should enact proper land reforms laws suitable for their state so since land is a stateless subject therefore we'll say that state government should enact their own land reform laws And related to this, you can also extend one point that Niti Aayog has already given one model land leasing law. So based on that, the states can also enact their land leasing law. Okay. Template is already there. You just have to copy paste and slightly maybe modify as per your own state's need. Right. Similarly, we will say ki land record digitization should be scaled up. Here you can give example of Bhulek of Odisha. Right. You can say that government should take proactive steps to distribute land to the landless under schemes like Vasundhara scheme. Right. You can say that we should also promote cooperative farming. So are you able to see all the points, types of major types of land reforms that we had seen? What are the types of land reforms? For example, land leasing, cooperative farming, right? Consolidation of land holdings. Same points you can write in way forward. State government should take steps to implement them. But write it in such a way that it should look like you are giving suggestions and not like you are recycling the same point from the body part. Okay. And these are some specific laws and acts that you can mention. I have specifically not written about land acquisition, but chalo, land acquisition related stuff also you can mention in one part. Key land acquisition, what do we need? 2013 law should be modified a bit, and we should implement a similar law. For example, LAB 2015, Land Acquisition Bill 2014. You can recommend that we should try to emulate or we should try to implement some provisions of this bill also. Okay. And finally, you can write in conclusion that you can also implement the recommendations of the National Commission for Farmers, NCF. This was a commission which was set up in 2006 under the chairmanship of MS Swaminathan. Who is MS Swaminathan?
The father of green
Father of green
revolution.
Very good. So this commission also gave many recommendations, including those on land reforms. So land reform related many recommendations were given by this committee. So you can also just write key we should implement those recommendations. Okay. So this concludes your land reforms chapter. If you have any doubts, please ask. Which doubt ଅଛି?
सर ओडिशा
सर,
सर वैल्यू मटेरियल दे देबे ठीक
हाँ ठीक अछि. Yes, someone else was asking.
सर, से जो पेंशन कथा आसला रिप्रेजेंटेटिव मानकर सेई टारे डिस्कस करथांती कि जे पेंशन कथा तो हाँ एटा तो जणा पड़ुची कि वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट भी रहुची तांकर बट आरो तार पॉजिटिव एटारे जे जेत मन 5 वर्ष तांक लाइफ रो दोउचंती ता परे जणे कोन एम्प्लॉयमेंट हेई परिबो न हेई परिबो तो सेई पर्पस रे भी गुटे प्रकार जस्टिफाइड रहुची पेंशन दबार आउ तापरे आउडे जिंस कि जदि हमें पेंशन दउचु जदियो करप्शन तांको दे होउची बट स्टिल हमें करप्शन वे को हिंडर करूछु जे जेहेतु पेंशन दिया होची तो तुमे कोनसी अजथा वेल्थ एक्युमुलेशन करिया दरकार नै तो सेटा गुटे दो पेपर इन पेन ने रहउची बट तो एटा गुटे मोर पर्सपेक्टिव एटा थिला.
Okay, I'll give you another information after that. Maybe just let me know whether your attitude has changed or not. We had discussed this thing in attitude chapter, that with addition of more information with different perspectives, sometimes our attitude also change. Let's try to understand whether, let's see whether we can change Elora's attitude or not in this aspect. Now the argument here is ki they have given 5 years of their life to lawmaking. Great. Saying very good thing. They have given 5 years to public service. Very good. Tomorrow, if you join as OS, OPS, ORS, whatever. Okay. So how many years you are going to work? Let's say 30 years, let's 25 years.
Yes, sir.
After 5 years of working, what they are getting? They are getting a fixed amount of salary, fixed pension. And this is every month, monthly. Every month they are getting, not a lump sum amount. What will you get after 30 years? Do you know? Now you are not going to get monthly pensions. Do you know this thing or not? By the way, are you guys under this impression?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Every year you are going
to
pension uthi, you will get a lump sum amount only. NPS under maybe chip 5. So I'm not even talking about OS. Think of many teachers, think of many other professionals. Okay. After 25 years, 30 years, they are getting some lump sum amount only, one time payment. And you know, whatever is the lump sum amount, there is actual loss because lump sum amount कौन तुम्हें खर्च कर दो immediately and तारो value बहुत बेसी नहीं किछ. Fixed pension हेले कौन गोटे salary भलिया गोटे fixed pension monthly जदि आसियो, now this is a better social security net. Now you tell me 5 years काम कला पर जने यदि इटा deserve करूची, जने 30 years जने teacher गोटे professor any other profession कला पर do they not deserve the same monthly pension? Why are they getting once lump sum amount? Why these people are getting monthly? 5 वर्ष काम करछन्ती बेली लाइफ टाइम से पाइबे पैसा. तमे 30 वर्ष काम कला पर भी पाइबो नाही. Now you tell me whether your attitude has slightly changed or what do you think? Is it justified or not?
सर कंपैरिजन करते गले जिनस और बहुत जिनस बाहरिबो बट मु कहबो सर 29 के 30 एज रे रिप्रेजेंटेटिव गुटे हेला वन टाइम टाइम देन नेक्स्ट 35 इयर्स पर सला रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हे पालानी बट एबे तो पकरे एज नहीं धनु ना जनरल करता हम पकरे एज नहीं एम्प्लॉयमेंट अप्लाई करिया पाए भी किछि करिबे तो मु अनएम्प्लॉयड रहिली तो सेही केस रे जिनसटा गोटे प्रकार पॉजिटिव जिनस दउची. हाँ बट कंपेयर करते हैं पेंशन स्ट्रक्चर ने कि बहुत सारा जिनस प्रकार में हेल्प करूछु पीपल को बट गोटे गोटे पीओवी देखिया ପାଇଁ गले मते लागे कि हां गोटे प्रकार जस्टिफाइड अछि बोली. हाँ एमती कोन जे कि बहुत जेते लमसम अमाउंट है उसका गोटे कम करा जीवो किंबा कोन से किछि स्ट्रक्चर पेंशन जो कि टीचर प्रोफेशन को दिया होउनी बोली हमें कथा होउ सेटा दिया दे पारिबो तो सेही रे पीओवी रे मु कोरा होउतली
ना काहेकि आगोर तो मंथली पेंशन लोक दिया होतला तापर एबे दिया जाओ नहीं एबे लम सम अमाउंट दिया होछ. The reason for this is कि government realized कि एटा गोटे unproductive expense on the government. In fact, in every department, every ministry, if you see, the most of the expense they will do is the revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure टा कौन है mostly on the salary and pension हुए. Even on salary the amount is less because currently जति जन लोक सर्विस रे थिए amount are less. पेंशन ने सबुठु अधिका पैसा खर्च हो. So government भाबले कि एते unproductive expense काई करियो हम उठे दउ salary pension माने pension टाको completely उठे दउ. कथा होची कि आगरु तो से सेम जिंस होतला एबे उठे now you realize कि it is unproductive. Why the same logic is not working for MPs and MLAs? Why the same awareness is not there? In fact, if you see Agniveer scheme, one of the main reasons for Agniveer scheme is that to reduce the pension burden on Indian army. Okay, because they are also getting lump sum amount, one time payment तांको मिलुछ. तापरे से माने यदि परमानेंट सर्विस रे गले तांको भीतर इंडक्ट हेले आई थिंक 1 क्वार्टर और समथिंग ही केवल जियो टॉप जो 25%. now सेमान को तापरे पेंशन मिलियो बट ए अग्निवीर मान को इनिशियली 4 वर्ष पे किछि पेंशन मिलियो नै तांको केवल गोटे पैकेज मिलियो. now यार भी रीजन से थिला कि अनप्रोडक्टिव एक्सपेंडिचर हम कमेइबो. मो कहया कथा एई सेम आइडिया यदि गवर्नमेंट को अन्य लोकन को अन्य प्रोफेशनल लोकन मन को पई आसुची निजे लॉ मेकर मान को कहीं कि आइडिया आसु नै कि हमें भी जो पैसा नौछु सेटा चलो मोर कोन मोर तो वीडियो वायरल हे जो तो मु तो कहि कि भाई नियो जे जते नौछ नियो. so MPs MLA should also take, I think they should also take more amount of pension. हमें क्या जाता है ठीक है.
सर
but
गोटे
I'm saying
डाउट
that
होला
yes
सर दी थर एमएलए दीटा पेंशन मिलियो
ନାଇଁ ତ ଏମିତି ଅଛି କି I don't think so. No, I don't think so. This is too much यार. I don't think this is true. who said कि दुई थर एमएलए ले दुई थर पेंशन मिलियो जणे गोटे टर्म हेले भी पेंशन मिलियो पांचटा टर्म रे रहले. see my point is ना what I feel कि see normal service year is usually 1% 25 years. so this is if you count it this is coming around 5 terms. so what I personally feel is कि if any person is a legislator for at least 5 terms or even say 4 terms or 20 years whichever is more, okay, we will say कि let this person avail monthly pension also, no issues, because this is equivalent to some service which the person has served for. now if a person one term at least should not provide because यार आ गोटे कोन गोटे मोरल hazard भी moral hazard कोन हो बहुत लोग एक्चुअली एबे से ही करछन because now many people understand that even one term MLA हे गले भी तांको पैसा मिले पेंशन तो से माने पब्लिक सर्विस पई आ आसुनांदी. they are fighting election just to get become MLA so that after that they can keep on getting salary or sorry pension, right? And now you think that the different number of MLAs and MPs over the years, is this not going to increase? Every year, previous year भी जो मैंने one term ଥିଲେ ए वर्ष पाई ना ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ବି ଆମ pension ଦେବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ए वर्ष MLA MP ନୂଆ କିଛି ଆସିଯିବେ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ବି ଲାଇଫ ଟାଇମ ପେମେଣ୍ଟ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଏଇଟା କଣ ଆମର ମାନେ टैक्स पेयर्स मनी ऊपर गोटे ड्रेन नुह आमर एक्सचेकर ऊपर गोटे ह्यूज प्रेशर या ऊपर पड़ुछ ना why should they be given let them also give some lump sum amount this can be one argument I'm not saying it some people are saying it this can be an argument okay
ନା ହଁ ତ ଏଇଟା ହଉଛି ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଛି ମୋର ବି ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ହେଇଛି ଏମିତି ଯେ ସେମାନେ ବସ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଲମ୍ପସମ୍ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ପାଇବା ପାଇଁ ଲାଇଫ ଟାଇମ ତାଙ୍କର ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସଙ୍କୁ ଛିଡା କରେଇ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ଦେନ୍ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଟାଇମ ଆସନ୍ତୁ ନ ଆସନ୍ତୁ ପେନସନ ମିଳିଯାଉଛି ଏଇଟା କି ହଉଛି ସେ ମାଇଣ୍ଡ
तो
ସେଟ୍
हब ऑब्वियसली तो तुमको भी यदि ऑप्शन मिलियो तुम यदि कहयो मोर ओएस न आले भी चलो मु एमएलए तार हेइ जाय यदि बट कथा तो
ତାହେଲେ
माइंड ए डिसीजन थोड़ा चली ना
ଜବ୍
जेबे
ଛାଡିକି
चली
ଜଏନ୍ କରୁ
सॉरी व्हाट
ତାହେଲେ ଏବେ ବହୁତ ପବ୍ଲିକ ସର୍ଭେଣ୍ଟ ଜବ୍ ଛାଡିକି ଜଏନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ପଲିଟିକ୍ସ।
କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଖୁସିରେ ଜଏନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଅସୁବିଧା କଣ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଠିକ ଅଛି ଆଇ
ଦେଖ
थिंक
ଯଦି ମନି ମାଇଣ୍ଡ ସେଟ୍ ଥାନ୍ତା ତ ତାହେଲେ ବହୁତ କିଛି କରିହୁଅନ୍ତା ଏଠି ପବ୍ଲିକ ସର୍ଭିସ କରିବାର ଅଛି ହିଁ ବୋଲି ଅଭ୍ୟାସ ହବାର ଅଛି।
ठीक अच्छी we believe you it's good I'm just by the way all the opinions that I'm giving and these are not my opinions okay for legal purposes I have to say that these are opinions of others that I'm just forwarding it here okay so, पता चला फिर किसने वायरल कर दिया कि you are criticizing MPs and MLAs but चलो कोई नहीं सर डेमोक्रेसी do you guys want me to after a break maybe do you want me to go through some of the Odisha related land reforms or nije padhidevo or what do you want tell me or we can end the class anyone कौन करेगा क्लास बंद कर दवा नोट दे दे तुमको ना टिके ब्रेक 5 मिनट ब्रेक नहीं की पढ़े देबी
सब पढ़ाई दिଅନ୍ତୁ ବ୍ରେକ୍ ଦେଇକି
ହଉ ଠିକ ଅଛି let's take 5 minutes break okay 8:50 we will meet at 8:50 Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. So चलो, let's do this relatively shorter topic. This is land reforms in Odisha. Land reforms in Odisha. Okay. So I have not prepared any notes, digital note for it. So please bear with me, because I thought that Suvendu sir has already taken this. So we will try to take down running notes, or also I will also keep on writing. Okay. ମୁଁ ଲେଖି ଲେଖି ଯାଉଛି ଦେଖ. ତ ଆମର କଣ ହେଇଛି ମେନ୍ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ରିଫର୍ମସ୍ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ କଣ ହେଇଛି ଦେଖ. ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ଯାହା ଯାହା ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ରିଫର୍ମସ୍ ହେଇଛି, ଫର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଟେନାନ୍ସି ରିଫର୍ମସ୍ ହେଇଛି, abolition of zamindars ହେଇଛି, abolition of intermediaries ହେଇଛି, है ना. Similarly we also have land holding sealing on land holding ହେଇଛି, ହେଲା. consolidation of land holding ହେଇଛି. ତ ସେ ସେମ୍ ଜିନିଷ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ବି ହେଇଛି. So ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ କଣ ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ୍, you have to write a few acts, scheme, ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଲେଖିଲେ କଣ ହବ, ଆନ୍ସର ଟା କରେକ୍ଟଲି ଆସିବ, ବାହାରିବ. Okay. So let's try to see କି from the beginning କି କଣ କଣ ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ହେଇଛି. First if you see abolition of intermediaries. Abolition of intermediaries in Odisha initially happened in 5 coastal districts. 5টা coastal district ରେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଏଇ abolition ହେଇଥିଲା. ମୋର exactly ମନେ ପଡୁନି. I think କଟକ, ପୁରୀ, ଗଞ୍ଜାମ, ବାଲେଶ୍ୱର, and there is one other non-coastal district, probably Koraput, I think. Okay, just check it once. या ऊपर ए term ठीक से मने पड़नी, but mostly एमती coastal districts उड़ारे implement ହେଇଥିଲା abolition of intermediaries प्रथम. Okay. This is one of the earliest land reforms in Odisha. Okay, one of the earliest, not the earliest, but one of the earliest. So abolition of intermediaries हवा द्वारा कौन हला, ए district रे एबे कौन हला, directly जो माने farmers थिले से माने government को rent pay कले, right. So government संगे rent direct pay कले, और rent तो कहे नहीं, sorry, revenue pay, land revenue pay कले, and there were no intermediaries in between. Okay. Now this was implemented through one act. Implementation कहाँ through रहेला, Odisha States Abolition Act, OEAA 1952, I think. Odisha States Abolition Act. Okay. So this is the first step, abolition of intermediaries. Second step was what? Tenancy reforms. ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲୁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ବି tenancy reforms ହେଇଥିଲା. ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ କଣ tenancy reforms ହେଲା? 1947 ପରେ immediately Odisha government first land reform law that they enacted was Odisha Tenants Protection Act. This was Odisha Tenants Protection Act, OTPA, 1948. Okay. तो या द्वारा कौन है, जो टेनेंट्स मानक, टेनेंट्स हु आर द भाग चाषी, एमानकु कौन प्रोटेक्शन दिया गला, किछि सिक्योरिटी ऑफ टेन्योर किछि दिया गला. सिमिलरली कहा गला कि जो लैंड ओनर्स माने ओनिंग मोर देन 33 acres of land. Okay. Remember this figure, 33 acres. Now they cannot evict their tenants. Okay. तमाने तांको जगह रे 33 एकर रु लैंड रु अधिका जो लैंड ओनर मान थिबो सेमाने यदि किछि लोक टेनेंट मान को रखिथिबे, सेमाने से कल्टीवेटर्स मान को एविक्ट करि परिबे नाही. सेमिति गोटे आसला ओडिशा टेनेंट्स रिलीफ एक्ट. These are different acts. Okay. OTRA 1955. So एटा कौन हला, this also provides some security of tenure किछि provide करा हला, माने eviction against. Similarly rent fixation भी हला. This was a reasonable amount of rent fixation. या थारु अधिका रेंट से माने नहीं परिवे ना. Okay, landowner man. So this was also one important act. Okay. Similarly, if you see, there was a third tapre au kon asyo. Ceiling on land holdings. Ceiling on land holdings. Ceiling kon rakha hala gote act asla Odisha Land Reforms Act, OLR Act. Okay. 1960. ये सब एक्ट बाय द वे तुम पढ़ी तो सर्विस रे जॉइन करे सब एक्ट माने रेवेन्यू लॉस अंडर रे पढ़ी. So OLR Act 1960, this is still being implemented. It prescribed initially एमाने गोटे सीलिंग गोटे लैंड सीलिंग फिक्स करते कले. प्रथमे लैंड सीलिंग फिक्स हेतिला 25 standard acres. Later on it was reduced to 10 standard acres. एटा तार गोटे 1973 अमेंडमेंट एक्ट अंडर एटा को रिड्यूस कराला सीलिंग टू. तो ता माने कोन ता माने 10 स्टैंडर्ड एकर रु अधिका जो माने रखिबे सेमानकर गवर्नमेंट तांकोठु जबरदस्ती से सरप्लस लैंड ता सपोज जनक पाखरे 12 स्टैंडर्ड एकर अछि. Government can take 2 standard acres from that person and they can distribute it among other people. Landless लोक मान को दे पारि. Okay. This is the purpose. Odisha Land Reforms Act under रे इटा सीलिंग ता रखा हला. However, if you know all of these, see, one of the problems with all of these were कि ये सब जो above LR steps, land reform steps were not successful, not very successful. Who can say why? The same point, lack of political will, strong lobby of zamindars, है ना, landowners, bypassing of law, for example, benami transactions. ये सब reason by similar to what happened in other parts of India, same thing happened in Odisha also, right? एते किछि बुझी होछि और किछि डाउट अछि. देखो सेम पॉइंट इंडिया रा जहा एथरे भी एग्जैक्टली सेम जिंस ही एबोलिशन ऑफ इंटरमीडिएरीज इंडिया केस रे जहा मीन करे ओडिशा केस रे भी सेम मीन करे. किछि भी डिफरेंट नो. ओनली थिंग डिफरेंट इज दैट यू नीड टू रिमेंबर दिस एक्ट्स. ए एक्ट उडा लिखियो कि कोन होइतिला केबे होइतिला. ओके. ओडिशा स्टेट्स एबोलिशन एक्ट, ओडिशा टेनेंट्स प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट, ओडिशा टेनेंट्स रिलीफ एक्ट ओटीआरए. ओके. सीलिंग ऑन लैंड होल्डिंग्स, दिस केम अंडर ओडिशा लैंड रिफॉर्म्स एक्ट 1960. 1973 amendment रे याको reduce करके 10 standard acre करा गला. So these are the things you have to write. Okay. बुझे हो ना बुझे हो.
Yes, sir.
तापर आसला consolidation of land holdings. याको कौन कहती अन्य नाम कौन? चकबंदी. So चकबंदी अंडर कौन ओडिशा रे कौन हेतिला? ओडिशा consolidation of holdings and prevention of fragmentation of land act, something like that. ओटा बहुत ही लंबा चौड़ा ना था. OCH and PFL act 1972 I think. तो एथरे कौन करा हला. So जो जो एरिया रे एमती टे फ्रैगमेंटेड लैंड थिला से सब एरिया रे ओडिसा रो से सब एरिया रे चकबंदी ऑफिस सब एस्टैब्लिश करा हला फॉर कंसोलिडेशन ऑफ दैट लैंड. ओके. सो बहुत सारा चकबंदी ऑफिस जति सारा आसला. सो चकबंदी ऑफिसेस were established under this act. Okay. Consolidation of land holdings. What else? Okay. This is not a land reform, government led land reform. Bhudan movement in general. Let me tell you a few things about Bhudan movement. Okay. So all of you know who started this?
Vinoba Bhave.
Very good, Vinoba Bhave. How did this start? Vinoba Bhave, started by Vinoba Bhave. तो 1951 अराउंड 1950s पर 51 रे आई थिंक से माने गोटे पदयात्रा स्टार्ट करथिले. सो एथिरे से माने कोन कले विनोबा भावे अपील्ड टू द पीपल टू वॉलंटरीली donate land to the landless. And actually many zamindars and big landowners, they voluntarily donated the land to the landless, right? So Bhudan movement, that is in India perspective, it is not as much important as it is important for Odisha. तो ओडिशा रे कौन हैला, ओडिशा रे भूदान मूवमेंट और बीएम रो कौन रोल थिला ना, ओडिशा रे द सेम थिंग बिकॉज़ विनोबा भावे आल्सो केम टू ओडिशा. ओके, in fact he toured extensively in western odisha and southern odisha, koraput malkangiri सब एरिया जाइतले. तो हेते में ताଙ୍କର ह्यूज इंपैक्ट पड़तला से सब एरिया. ना विनोबा भावे, due to the visit of Vinoba Bhave, he also inspired some leaders of Odisha. Specifically, this Bhudan movement in Odisha. ସେତେବେଳେ ତାର ନା ଓରିସା ଥିଲା. ଓରିସା was started by whom? ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁ ଦାସ, ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁ ଚୌଧୁରୀ and his wife Rama Devi. These two people were actually the founders of Bhudan movement in Odisha. They also started a padayatra in which they encouraged people to माने कैंपेन गोटे चली चली लोकों को बुझेगी, से कैंपेन द्वारा बहुत लोग कौन कले डोनेट करते. यार किसी छोटा छोटा सब फैक्ट अच्छे सब जिन मन पड़े, जो मन पड़े लिखिद. एमती कि हरप्रिया देवी, शी वाज द फर्स्ट पर्सन टू donate land in BM in Odisha. Okay. बरी रामचंद्रपुर रे एक्चुअली टाइटल तांकर फर्स्ट कैंपेन ता थिला कि पदयात्रा ता थिला बरी रामचंद्रपुर रे. सेठिकार जने रिच लैंड लेडी थिले, से फर्स्ट टाइम पई देथिले. या परठो स्टार्ट हेतिला तांकर कैंपेन. नाउ गवर्नमेंट कोन कला, गवर्नमेंट टू फैसिलिटेट Bhudan movement, it enacted an Orissa Bhudan Yagya Act. Okay. 1953 नेक्स्ट ईयर. देखो 1951 रे भूदान मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हला, 1952 रे ओडिशा को आसला भूदान मूवमेंट, 1953 रे गवर्नमेंट एई एक्ट को एनैक्ट कला. या अंडर रे से माने कोन कले, इट प्रोवाइडेड फॉर द एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ भूदान यज्ञ समिति BYS. यार पर्पस कौन थिला, सी लोक माने पीपल और लैंड ओनर्स से माने कौन करिए, डोनेट करिए, वॉलंटरली डोनेट करिए लैंड. ये जो लैंड डोनेट करिए एबे माने BYS को डोनेट करिए. नाउ BYS विल रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट द लैंड टू द लैंडलेस. Okay. So this was the purpose. So this was a mechanism. You can think of this as a fund or an institution through which the donation of land was being rerouted. Okay, so government ro गोटे institution होतला. ना भूदान भलिया गोटे सिमिलरली ग्रामदान मूवमेंट भी स्टार्ट हला. भूदान पर ग्रामदान. ग्रामदान कौन, भूदान जेमती लैंड डोनेशन ऑफ लैंड, ग्रामदान होची डोनेशन ऑफ एंटायर विलेज. एंटायर विलेज रो लोक हतले निजर लैंड को डोनेट कर देले अन्य मानक, दैट केम टू बी नोन एज भूदान. सो दिस इज अ वेरी स्ट्रेंज थिंग, बट बेसिकली कौन है कि से माने गरीब लोकों पई से माने निज निज जगह सब छाड़ देले किसी, चलो तुम्हें एनी पोर पीपल कैन कम एंड दे कैन स्टे हियर. ओके, एंड दिस वाज एन ऑफशूट ऑफ Vinoba Bhave's Bhudan movement, right? And if you see what is the first Gramdan, आपको जाना है first Gramdan, विलेज रो ना जानिछ, मंगरोथ उत्तर प्रदेश रो गोटे विलेज सो दे डोनेटेड देयर एंटायर लैंड ओडिसा रे दिस इज इन इंडिया राइट ओडिसा रे कोटा फर्स्ट ग्रामदान विलेज इन ओडिसा मानपुर बोली गोटे गाँटे अच्छी जान को डिस्ट्रिक्ट कटक मानपुर so that was the first gramdan village what else कोरापुट गोटे स्पेशल मेंशन लिख परियो इट इज वेरी सक्सेसफुल इन भूदान एंड ग्रामदान मूवमेंट what else happened what a statistics achi let me find the statistics 19 yeah 1960 60 बेलू टोटल इंडिया रे हितला टोटल जो ग्रामदान हितला 4500 ग्रामदान हितला ओके सेथिरु 1946 टा हितला ओनली फ्रॉम ओडिसा one of the major districts of Odisha to do this was Koraput. Finally, कौन हला Odisha Bhudan and Gramdan Act 1970 OBGA. Okay. This was enacted by the government, enacted by the Odisha Legislative Assembly to facilitate land donations. Okay. Now finally, decline of Bhudan movement. Bhudan movement actually declined after the around 1970s. 1970s rate decline करिगला. Why? Because fourth 5-year plan या अंडर रे गोटे प्रोविजन थिला फॉर लैंड सीलिंग तो लैंड सीलिंग प्रोविजन जते आसला तापरे रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ लैंड भी आसला तो रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ लैंड जते स्टार्ट ही गला सेतले आउ भूटान को आउ किए पचारे बिकॉज़ दिस इज लीगली मैंडेटेड राइट दिस इज लीगली मैंडेटेड सो आफ्टर दैट एंड आल्सो बिकॉज़ आफ्टर द माने बिनवा हावें को परे कि तांकर सेमता सक्सेसर केही बाहरले नाही सो दैट इज आल्सो अनदर रीजन कि बिनवा हावें को सक्सेसर केही सेमते नथिले no able successor so because of these two reasons there was a decline of Bhutan movement across India not just in Odisha across India and yet we will say that conclusion ने गोटे जिनसे लिख परियो कि ओडिशा स्टिल ओडिशा जतले ओडिशा जो थिला still it has great impact from the Bhutan movement and Odisha was the fourth largest land donating state in India. Okay. This is all about land reform in Odisha. Okay. या भितरु आई थिंक बहुत सारा पार्ट पढ़ाई थियो आगरु पढ़ाई थिला कि नहीं प्रीवियस क्लास रे
Yes, sir.
राइट so that's why ମୁଁ ବହୁତ detail ରେ ସେମିତି କିଛି କଲିନି but still I'll tell you this much information is enough let me tell you exam ରେ ଲେଖିବା ପାଇଁ ଏତିକି information enough ଅଛି okay. if you want you can write these things any doubts in this any doubts no
सर गोटे नॉन एग्जाम रिलेटेड डाउट थिला सर रिगार्डिंग माने जो 2000 माने नेक्स्ट तार साइकिल पई भी जो पे नोटिफिकेशन बाहर छे तो सेतरे जो सर्विस प्रेफरेंस पई तो माने ईच सर्विस टिके खाली गोटे लाइन रे माने एडवांटेज और डिसएडवांटेज कह देला हम गोटे इजी होबो
ठीक है कहि देबी मुझे क्लास टा रैप अप कर दिए कहि कथा हे जाओ नेक्स्ट 5 मिनिट
Okay.
ओके एनी डाउट्स इन दिस क्लास लैंड रिफॉर्म्स बुझियाला सेंता छोट चैप्टर टा बट देखो हमें बहुत भलो डेप्थ रे जाइछु सो में टिके टाइम लागला ठीक अछि इट्स वी कवर्ड सी दिस विल हेल्प यू इन यूपीएससी आल्सो इंडिया पार्ट टा बहुत डिटेल ले ओडिशा पार्ट जा क्वेश्चन आसीबो 10 15 मार्क्स दैट आल्सो यू कैन अटेंड although let me tell you previous year question बहुत सारा यहाँ पर नहीं so for that reason also but still if they are asking you can write a good answer ठीक है तो I think that